dragon, wanna retire, man, I'm too hot. Say my name, you know who I am, I'm too hot. And my band bought that money, break it down. Girls hit you, hallelujah. Girls hit you, hallelujah. Girls hit you, hallelujah. Cause Uptown Funk don't give it to you.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Welcome to TEDxEcoleHôtelièreLausanne 2016. Let's give it a round of applause. Woo! For those of you who don't know, my name is Abi, and I am proud to be your host for today. Now, if I can ask you to do something. Everyone, look around you. Look at the person to your left. Look at the person to your right. Thank you. Oh, wow, that worked. We come from such a wide range of countries and cities. We are so diverse. And that's what makes this topic at this location so special. Origins. Such a vast topic with endless possibilities. In fact, a topic that will take us all on a journey. A journey of discovery. A journey on finding out what this topic really means to you. And that's why we are here today. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with TED, no worries, that's why I'm here. TED is in fact a non-profit organization devoted to spreading ideas across the globe. TED stands for Technology, Entertainment, and Design. From science to business to global issues, TED covers it all in over 100 different languages. Now, TEDx, on the other hand, which is the event taking place today, follows the same spirit as TED. However, all TEDx events are independently organized. Now, to give you a little history of TEDx here at EHL. TEDx at EHL was created in 2012, where we had our first conference. In both 2012 and 2013, they were completely organized by staff and was by invitation only. However, in 2015, TEDx EHL went through a revolutionary change where it became completely organized by students and open to the public. Today, ladies and gentlemen, marks the 4th edition of TEDx here at EHL, completely organized by students and the biggest one yet. Now, before we start, I would like to show you a quick video on the TED and TEDx organization. Thank you.
From Kenya to Colombia, from Iraq to Korea, in slums, in schools, in prisons, and in theaters, every day people gather at TEDx events around the world to hear the best ideas bubbling up in their communities. Today, you are part of a global conversation about our shared future. So what is this TEDx? TEDx is an initiative of the TED Conference, a non-profit devoted to ideas worth spreading. We grant free licenses to allow TED-like events to spread globally. This event today is based on the TED Conference format and ideals, but is independently organized by your local community. So please make sure to thank the team of volunteers who worked so hard on today's event. It's their ideas, dedication, and time that made it all possible. It's they who booked all the speakers, and the views you'll hear today are, of course, those of those speakers, not necessarily of TEDs. But we hope their talks spark an exciting conversation among you. This is a day for curiosity and for skepticism, for openness and for critical thinking, for inspiration and for action. The more you enter into it, the more you'll take out. And now, on with the show.
So guys, as you've just seen, this is big. This is powerful. And it's here today. Thanks to our amazing team, our TEDx team here at EHL, we have an amazing lineup of speakers for you today who each have their own take on this vast topic. And lastly, before we begin, I would just like to thank our biggest sponsor, Metro Group, for sponsoring our food and beverage for the event, which you will all be able to enjoy. Also, ladies and gentlemen, for the respect of all of our speakers, doors will remain closed during the talks However, during the transition, so whenever I'm on stage, you are free to move in and out. And if you are locked outside, you can still follow the coverage by watching the TVs outside. All right, let's begin. Origins to our first speaker is not just a topic, it's much more. For him, it's not just a word, but a lifestyle. He has in fact taken origins to shape his career and his business. Founder and CEO of Peculiar People, his products hover around being different and diverse. As a young businessman and entrepreneur, a lot of students in the crowd can follow our dreams just as our next speaker followed his. In today's world, ladies and gentlemen, it's so easy to follow the norm. It's so easy to, copy someone else. But no, we need to embrace our differences and be original. And that's why our next speaker is here with us today. Mr. Jeremy Farrell will tell us how to use our unique origins to make a positive impact in this world. So, guys, flying in all the way from New York City, it gives me a great honor and privilege to present to you our first speaker of the day, Mr. Jeremy Farrell.
Hello, my name is Jeremy. I just want to get started by sharing a little bit of my unique origin. So I was born in Trinidad and Tobago many years ago, and when I was born, my parents told me that the doctor said one thing. He said, "Wow." When I was born, the doctor said "wow," not because of my dashing good looks or because of big muscles on a baby or anything like that. The doctor said "wow" because I was a 10-pound baby with a 9-pound head. Now I can see some of the looks around the room and some of you don't quite believe me. So luckily I came here with proof. I looked through a lot of our family photo albums and I found a picture that accurately shows to you that I'm not lying to you. So I brought this picture of me, which is actually from our family photo albums. This is the actual size of my head with the actual size of my body. And if you could just imagine, someone with this size head and that size body felt a little bit peculiar or different. As if that wasn't bad enough, my parents thought it would be very interesting to name me Jeremy spelled with a G, not with a J. Now, those two things made life very interesting for me. First of all, my large head would throw the balance off my body very easily. So I would be running around the yard of my family house, and my head would catapult my body forward and make me fall very often. The piece of advice that my parents had for me was, "Jeremy, don't run. You know what will happen." Well, there were times that I didn't follow their advice, and I ran. And I remember one particular time when I ran and my head threw my balance off. I fell head first, teeth fell directly onto the ground, and I knocked out my 2 front teeth. So now you see 3 very interesting, unique things about me. First of all, my large head. Second of all, my lack of front teeth. Now let's get into the third thing. My name was spelled with a G, and my parents did it because they thought that that would make me very unique or interesting. But my classmates thought that that wasn't quite interesting or unique. So they took this opportunity to rename me. Instead of Jeremy, they gave me their own nicknames. They weren't quite as fun. They would be Germ. "Look at him, he's a germ." Or Jeremy, "He's germy, get away from him." Or Grimy. Or the one that I like the least, Big Head. Kids, so cruel. So that was Jeremy. Had these 3 things that were very different about him. This is a picture of young Jeremy, and you see me in my large head, my missing front teeth, and my name was still spelled Jeremy with a G. These things were very tough on me. I don't know if you had any kind of insecurities at a young age, but it's very difficult when you're a young guy with insecurities, because when I was young, I would hide in the shadows just so that no one would notice the size of my head. Also, I would wear a hat when I go to school. Wearing a hat would ensure that no one will see the size of my head. Little did I know, wearing a hat actually brought more attention to my head than took away attention from my head. And then also, whenever I had to write my name down, I would write it with the G looking like a J because I was very insecure about that. Very tough. And I spent a lot of my childhood hiding who I truly was. I spent a lot of my childhood hiding the fact that my name was spelled with a G, hiding the fact that I had this abnormally large head, and hiding the fact that I had these 2 missing front teeth. One day, I forgot my hat at home, and because of that, the kids noticed it, and they said, "Oh, look, it's Jeremy with the large head," and they started making fun of me once again. I decided that day, that's it. I'm not gonna hide who I truly am anymore. You gotta take me or leave me. If you don't like the size of my head, you can leave me alone. I realized that day, something new unlocked for me. That day, I felt more energy than ever before. I also felt this whole new sense of freedom, and somehow I felt happy. I felt happy because I wasn't hiding who I truly, genuinely was, but I was embracing it. And this unlocked a whole new world for me. What happened was the things that made me original was the fact that I was a little boy with a large head, a weird name, and missing front teeth. But those are also the key to making me unique or peculiar. I noticed that by not trying to hide these things, but by embracing it, that there's a whole new side of me that people didn't necessarily see. I realized that I was a quick learner. I realized that I had a very vivid imagination. I realized I had musical abilities I'd never noticed before, and I also realized that I was creative. So all these things together actually painted a whole new side of me that I could embrace, that could actually make a difference in my environment. So by doing those things, I started embracing it, and I learned how to I taught myself how to fix computers at a very young age. I taught myself how to play saxophone at a young age. And all these new things, all these new skills and abilities were unlocked just by embracing the things that made me original, or embracing my unique origins. When you think back on yourself, what are the things that you might have suppressed about yourself that's actually the key to making you unique or making you peculiar? When I realized that just by not suppressing these things or by hiding these things, that I can unlock a whole new side of me and I can actually make a difference in my community, I realized that I need a reminder to remind myself to always stay peculiar. So what I did is I took the 2 things that initially I very much disliked about myself, which were the fact that my name was spelled with a G and the fact that I had a large head, and I put it together. And instead of using those things for a weakness, I turned it around and used it for a strength. And I put together a personal logo, which is a combination of these 2 things. And this personal logo was meant from that day forth to remind me that regardless of how insecure I might be about certain things, regardless of who makes fun of me, these things are all the key to me being unique and being peculiar. The statement I want to say to you is, when you embrace the things that make you original, you actually unlock the things that make you peculiar. You must embrace those things that make you original. See, if there are things about you that you don't quite feel comfortable with, don't feel bad, because you're not alone. This is something that's very typical. Let me explain what typically happens. When you're born an individual. It's just you. There are very interesting things about yourself, the way that you walk, the way that you talk, the way that you speak, your preferences, your habits, everything like that. You're born with all those interesting, unique things. But those are also the things that make you stand out. So sometimes when you get around your peers, especially at a young age, those things are the things that draws attention. Bullies might say, "Oh, look at him, look at her, she's different." So then what a lot of people tend to do is they tend to shy away from those things and just try to fit in. So that the difference between me and the person next to me, you can't tell much of a difference. So they try to shy away from the things that make them unique. But the problem is that when you do that, you are depriving the world of seeing the things about you that you were put on this planet to make a difference about. So the first step in making a difference in this world is to stand out. The only way for you to change the environment around you is to stand out. If you have a different way of thinking, a different way of speaking, a different way of acting, you must embrace those things and stand out instead of trying to fit in. When I think about that, there are three people who are my personal heroes, and they're people who started out with putting away the things that made them unique, or things that made them original. And those three people are Elon Musk, we have Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and we have Oprah Winfrey. For those of you who don't know, Elon Musk is the CEO of SpaceX and Tesla. And when he was young, he was made fun of because he liked to read and to learn. So his classmates, sometimes they beat him up, they threw him down the stairs. There's actually a story about one of his classmates punching him in the face and breaking his nose, all because he was different. What he did eventually is that he took those things that made him different and he embraced it. He liked to read, and then he started reading encyclopedias from cover to cover. He embraced those things, and that was the key to him making a difference in the world today. We have Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. He is a civil rights leader who had a different way of thinking. He looked at the world around him and he said, something is different here. He didn't quite like the way how all humans weren't being treated equal. So he took his unique way of thinking and he made that his difference. He embraced it, and he said, I'm going to make a difference in this world. We look at Oprah Winfrey, someone who had a very difficult childhood growing up. Oprah Winfrey, at first she suppressed her childhood because it was a troubled childhood. But when she started embracing it and using those things to unlock the peculiar things about her, she unlocked a whole new side of her, and she ended up being one of the most influential women of our time. What are the things that you're depriving the world of by not embracing your unique origin? What are the things about you that you don't feel comfortable with, so you put it to the side? Those are the things that are meant to change the world all around you. If you think about any major leader, any influential leader of our time, they first had to start by standing out. So the statement I want to leave with you all today is that every great leader must first be peculiar. Are you peculiar? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Jeremy. If we take a look at today's most successful and influential people, who do we think of? Sure, Barack Obama, Bill Gates, even Kanye West, right? Come on, Kanye too, guys, come on. But what gives these people the motivation to move on? What gives them the passion for success? Is it something you're born with? Is it something you can learn? I don't know. But what I do know is that if you're looking for the answer, we have just the man for you. Ladies and gentlemen, Edgar Grosperon, gold medalist at the 1992 Winter Olympic Games. That's right, you heard me. Gold medalist, 1992 Winter Olympic Games, has a lot to say about where the spark that brings out our talent comes from. Origins, like I said, is such a vast term with many interpretations. His interpretation and his talk is on the origin of performance. And what better person to give it to us than a former Olympic gold medalist? Ladies and gentlemen, here on the stage, please give a warm welcome to Mr. Edgar Grosperon.
Thank you. Do you know the difference between God and a champion? Well, God has never thought he was a champion. So let me bring you back at the time I thought I was God. At the time I was saying that I would win the games, the Olympics, under pressure in my home country. I knew it was not done, but I also knew that I had to find that thing that will help me to realize that dream. To find that thing that is at the origin of any performance. To find that thing that is, to me today, a combination of 3 ingredients. The first one is passion. At the beginning, I was not very passionate about mogul skiing. Such a crazy sport. I remember the first time I was at the top of the course. First time, 12 years old. 300 meters long, 28 degrees of declivity, 150 meters wide, full of moguls, 1,000 moguls. I had 1,000 problems. And I turned to my coach and I say, "Hey, boss, who's the stupid guy who has invented that crazy sport?" And he told me, "Well, it's not so stupid. Just put your two arms in front of you, you let go, and the bumps will disappear." And he left. And he did that. That was amazing to see. Him skiing, like his balance was just perfect. His shoulders were facing the moguls. The bumps, the knees were absorbing the bumps. It was magical to see. It was like when he was skiing, if the slope was flat. So I took my courage. I put my two arms in front of me, and I let go. 5 turns. After 5 turns, I crashed. I lost the balance. Then I stood up again, I start again, 3 turns. Lost the control. Well, it's been 8 minutes of humiliation. 8 long minutes compared to the coach, who did the run in 35 seconds. 8 long minutes. And when I got down to the bottom of the course, I had lost my balance, my control, and my dignity. I thought to the coach, "I'm sorry, boss, but I don't have the technique. I don't think that I am made for that kind of sport." And he answers, "Well, Edgar, as long as you think like a loser, you will end up a loser. Hey, come on. Tell me something that will encourage me, something concrete. Why do you say that?" Because I saw you facing those 1,000 moguls with your 1,000 problems. So what's the difference with the champion? And he told me, "You have to think like a champion. That's the difference. It's not a matter of technique. It's a matter of thinking." And I asked, "Okay, how does a champion think?" Because I thought that champion have legs, no brain. You know? And he told me, "All right, most of the people sees the problem. Champion sees the opportunity." And it turns my life around. From that day on, I disciplined myself to cultivate the idea that I was able to transform things, to transform an obstacle, a problem, into an opportunity, a solution, to focus my energy on something that I control rather than something that I don't control. Focus on my strength rather than my weaknesses. Focus on what I have for me rather than what I don't have. And that really turns my life around. It's passion. I was not passionate about mogul skiing because of mogul skiing, because of skiing, because I was turning around bumps. I was passionate about mogul skiing because the way I learned to look at the obstacle was exciting. It's not the obstacle that is the problem. It's the way you deal with it. The way you look at things will determine the experience. So if at the very beginning I would have believed that I was not able to become Olympic champion, guess what? I should not complain. You know? So the passion was for skiing for sure, but it was more for what skiing, what that kind of sport helped me to be, or to become. That was the first ingredient of this performance. The second one was about to love what you do, what I have done. That was very important. And you know, at the age of 18, I became for the first time world champion. I was just great, just fantastic. 18 is very young. And I remember the TV news, they show a report on my success, on this victory. And so when I saw the report, I started to call my friends and my family to tell them, watch the TV, look at the report. At the end of the report, it was just embarrassing. Something was a little bit embarrassing. I was lying in the armchair and the journalist asked me his last question. He told me, Edgar, you're 19, world champion. Now, what does life mean to you? And my answer was ski, sex, and rock and roll. That was embarrassing. Towards my coach. Because the next day, we went back at trainings. And my coach asked me, Edgar, now I want you to tell me, how will you bring your sport to the next level? How will you raise the bar? I told him, you didn't watch the news last night, I guess, to ask me that. I want to have now the fun part of it, you know. I want to have the return on investment I have made. I want now that life must be easy. I want to have the life of Riley, to enjoy. I don't want to suffer. And he told me, all right, no problem, Edgar. So tell me what you love the most. I say, party. No. What do you love the most when you ski? Oh, when I ski. Well, I love when I go fast, as quick as I can. But I make so many mistakes that we'd better work on those mistakes. And the coach told me, okay, go up. Ski one run as fast as you can. And when I came back, he told me that I was skiing the slope in 32 seconds. All right. And he told me, Edgar, now I want you to ski the slope in 30 seconds. And I said, what about my mistakes? He said, don't worry about the mistakes. If you succeed, if you ski the run in less than 30 seconds, it will be so spectacular that we won't be able to see the mistakes anymore. That was fun. That was exciting. I took it as a challenge. Skiing as fast as possible, even faster. I took it as a challenge because the more I was working on my strength, the more my job was exciting, was fun, was enjoyable, was a challenge. Compared to the more I was working on my weaknesses, the more my job became boring and exhausting. To love what you do is probably the second ingredient of any performances. But let me talk to you about creativity. When I was in the gates of the Olympic Games, it remains only 65 turns to make a difference. I had only 30 seconds to make a difference. But it took me 10 years to be able to reach that level. It took me 1,300,000 turns to be able to be in the gates of the Olympics. So where do you think we make the difference? As I was not the most talented skier, the one who has the more means, the more luck than everyone, I really had to compensate. Is the winner, is the guy who make more turns than the others? It's not what I could observe. Because I really looked after my opponents. I really looked at them. I really watched in details what they were doing, when they were questioning themselves in order to progress, to improve in their job. And some of them improve every 500 turns. Some of them better every 100 turns. And as I'm not more gifted than them, I really have to question myself more than they do. I really have to face my doubts more than they do. I really have to create solutions, find ideas to improve, to get better and better, turns after turns, obstacles after obstacles, difficulty after difficulty, to become better and better. So I discipline myself to progress every 65 turns, and that makes the difference. That makes the success. And success paves the road for those who search, not for those who have excuses. When you have excuses, it's not fun. You don't find people on your way that help you to find the purpose of your life, to help you to find what you love the most, or to create or to question themselves for yourself. But when you search, when you seek for solutions, there you meet people who will help you to gather the conditions for you to find this fantastic energy, this God within, this divine energy that is a combination of passion, talent, and creativity. An energy that I call motivation. And what is fantastic about motivation? It's that it's not a gift, but it's an energy that we all can create, develop, cultivate, and transmit. In order to reveal the champion we have in ourselves, in order to make a dream come true. And I want to end my presentation by a French quote that I hate. I really don't like it, this one. It says in French, quand je dis ça, je dis rien, mais ça va mieux en le disant. When I say that, I say nothing, but it's better saying it. I don't like this one because it says that what I've just said to you is absolutely useless unless you will do something with it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Egel. And I think we can all learn from that, the origin of performance and really finding that inner motivation that brings us to the top. It's something very useful. So thank you for that. Our next speaker has her own take on origins with a crucial issue in today's society. To give you a little background, our next speaker is a born entrepreneur. Creating businesses is what she does best. With a master's degree in economics from the University of Geneva, she has taken her educational experience and created a solution in solving this crucial issue. Now, the crucial issue that I'm talking about is the gender pay gap. As a result, she has created Equal Salary, a non-profit organization for fair compensation between the genders. This, in fact, now makes her a social entrepreneur. Companies can now pride on equal pay in the workplace thanks to our next speaker. Veronique Gois-Winhouse will now give us a solution to equal pay in the workplace with Brave Men for Equal Pay. So, ladies and gentlemen, I give you to our stage, Veronique Gois-Winhouse.
First of all, I'm delighted to be in front of you all. Big pleasure. And I know I have a few friends here, and it's very warm in my heart. I will start with the origin of the big idea. And this is that fact, that on one hand, you have the gender pay gap, statistics. And on the other hand, you have most companies that says that of course they pay men and women the same. Now, in absence of hard facts, whom to believe for employees? And then for companies, how to communicate with credibility? I'm the proud mother of a daughter and of a son. So you understand I was quite touched by that image, by that sentence that says that we better prepare our daughter for working life and give her less pocket money. In that audience, there are quite a few students, young women, young men. What would you have thought if your parents had behaved that way? Now, let me illustrate what it means in the working life. Recently, I was talking to a woman. She came to me and she said, I'm an ex-partner in one of those big auditing firms. And one day, my CEO came to me with a big smile and he said, well, we checked equal pay in the company, and you know what? We're doing pretty good. We have a 4% gender pay gap. Well, I tell you, she didn't react exactly the same, because she said, at my level of salary, 4% is no small money. And we can imagine that this 4% could amount to what? 16, 20,000 Swiss francs a year? She could almost buy a car, right? Every year. Well, let's have a look at some statistics on the gender pay gap. On the worldwide level, it's 23%. In the States, you have 22%. In Europe, it's 16.4%, and 15.1% in Switzerland. Those are facts. Many voices are advocating around the world, such as President Obama or Patricia Arquette at the Oscar ceremony. But also, the Pope Francisco, last year said that the gender pay gap is a pure scandal. Well, there is also a mounting pressure from governments in Switzerland and around the world. They want to change the legislation to force companies to check whether they have equal pay and then publish it in their annual reports. This is quite a challenge. Now, why is there so? Why would a government take this drastic action? Well, they will do it because actually the gender pay gap has an economical impact. For Switzerland, it has been estimated to 7.7 billion Swiss francs. And Switzerland is a rather small country, isn't it? Well, now imagine that you would do that calculation on a worldwide basis, what this would amount to. Look at these two words, equal pay. Rather uncomfortable, isn't it? Those are two very sensitive words, very emotional. And this is why it was necessary to come up with a practical idea. Some years ago, I decided I would create equal salary, a certification for companies to check and then promote, communicate, internally and externally, that they have equal pay for men and women. Bringing transparency while preserving confidentiality. And this would allow them to attract and retain talent, and also for good governance purposes. How does it work? Well, salary data is analyzed with a methodology that has been developed with the University of Geneva. And then there is a qualitative audit that is conducted with international recognized auditing firms. Quite a few companies have done it, both in Switzerland and internationally. Now, when I talk about this to women, I get a very big wow. Wow, Veronique, this is what we need. This would be a great thing for my company, because I always wonder where we stand with that issue. Sometimes it goes even further. I have some women that will come to me and say, well, actually, I was in that large company and I decided to leave because I strongly felt. Or sometimes it's, I knew I was not receiving the same salary as my male colleague. And therefore, it was demotivating and I left. Now, of course, I'm talking to men too. And I don't get the same interest. I might get this, this is interesting. But most of the time, the reaction is, of course we're treating women and men the same. And you can see this is not an issue. And this consideration is reinforced, is supported by a French study that was conducted a few years ago with 1,200 managers. And it says that, it concluded with the fact that if 76% of women believe that they earn less than their male colleague, this is true only for 34% of men. So there is a different perception between men and women towards equal pay. Does it matter? Well, I show you another statistic. It is that 95% of CEOs are men. And you know, equal pay is a decision that has to be taken by CEOs. Now, if CEOs do not understand what is behind that issue, well, we may just wait another 100 years, right, to get equal pay. Well, I would like now to introduce you to Thomas Illy. He's the CEO of Lireco. It's a certified company in Switzerland. And Lireco, it's an international company. It's one of the world leaders in the distribution of office supplies. Actually, today he should have been next to me. And unfortunately, he had to decline. He had a busy timetable. But nevertheless, earlier this year, we were presenting to an audience. And when I gave him the floor, and I said, you know, with enthusiasm that I'm very good with, well, Thomas, please tell us now why you wanted to do equal salary. Well, the first thing he said, well, I never thought I would do such a certification. I never thought I would have to do it. I would even consider doing it. And he said, I always was convinced that you should treat men and women the same, and then I didn't give it a second thought. And when he started thinking about it, he also, he said, honestly, if I really think, I really thought deep down, well, I realized I was quite scared. Because I thought, are we really equal pay? Will that not show that we have some differences? Or maybe bigger differences? And what will that cost? And if this is the case, what about confidentiality breach? This would even cost more in terms of financial adjustments or loss of image. Nevertheless, his HR manager convinced him that things were okay within the company. He had checked. And then there was another important aspect. There was a business opportunity. They were going to send an offer for public markets. On public markets, companies have to sign a document that they respect equal pay. And if they do so, they accept the fact that they might be controlled by the authorities. And this is why they decided they would check whether they have that equal pay was a reality, in order to know where they stood, not to have a problem. So there he is in front of that crowd and saying actually that they have done it. It was not easy, but they have made it. Not easy because it has high standards. So that's one of the first things he's happy about it. They have succeeded in doing it. But also, he's happy about that because they have shown they have a responsible attitude. And he said, actually, I'm quite proud. And when I asked him why, he said, I'm proud because I was brave enough to do it. He was brave enough to challenge his fears. He was brave enough to show, give visibility to what he believed in, even though there was some uncertainty. And he was so proud about that, that actually he also said that he wanted to bring that message to more CEOs, and I'm quoting him. Because it is important for employees and companies, but also in doing so, it pushes away the threat of regulation, which might prove at the end more complicated. Therefore, because it is better for employees, because it is better for companies, because it is better for countries, because it makes a better world, we need brave men for equal pay. Thank you.
As part of TEDx events, we have the opportunity and privilege of showing you 2 videos handpicked by our TEDx team. After watching hundreds of videos, I'm sure, they have come down to 2 which are both interesting and relevant to our topic today of origins. I am proud to present to you the first one by Adam Grant on surprising habits of original thinkers. Adam Grant is not only famous for his book Give and Take, but is actually a top-rated professor at the Wharton School of Business at the University of Pennsylvania. His work on original success, motivation, and leadership can really be seen with the video I'm going to show you. Original people think differently. They have their own way of thinking, they have their own way of doing things, they have their set mentality that keeps them motivated. So, let's discover this mentality. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you up on our big screen, Professor Adam Grant.
Seven years ago, a student came to me and asked me to invest in his company. He said, I'm working with 3 friends, and we're going to try to disrupt an industry by selling stuff online. And I said, okay, you guys spent the whole summer on this, right? No, we all took internships, just in case it doesn't work out. All right, but you're going to go in full-time once you graduate. Not exactly. We've all lined up backup jobs. 6 months go by. It's the day before the company launches, and there is still not a functioning website. You guys realize the entire company is a website. That's literally all it is. So I obviously declined to invest. And they ended up naming the company Warby Parker. They sell glasses online. They were recently recognized as the world's most innovative company and valued at over $1 billion. And now, my wife handles our investments. Why was I so wrong? To find out, I've been studying people that I come to call originals. Originals are nonconformists, people who not only have new ideas, but take action to champion them. They're people who stand out and speak up. Originals drive creativity and change in the world. They're the people you want to bet on, and they look nothing like I expected. I want to show you today 3 things I've learned about recognizing originals and becoming a little bit more like them. So, the first reason that I passed on Warby Parker was they were really slow getting off the ground. Now, you are all intimately familiar with the mind of a procrastinator. Well, I have a confession for you. I'm the opposite. I'm a precrastinator. Yes, that's an actual term. You know that panic you feel a few hours before a big deadline when you haven't done anything yet? I just feel that a few months ahead of time. So this started early. When I was a kid, I took Nintendo games very seriously. I would wake up at 5 a.m., start playing, and not stop until I had mastered them. Eventually, it got so out of hand that a local newspaper came and did a story on the dark side of Nintendo, starring me. Since then, I've traded hair for teeth. But this served me well in college, because I finished my senior thesis 4 months before the deadline. And I was proud of that. Until a few years ago, I had a student named Jihei who came to me and said, I have my most creative ideas when I'm procrastinating. And I was like, that's cute. Where are the 4 papers you owe me? No, she was one of our most creative students, and as an organizational psychologist, this is the kind of idea that I test. So I challenged her to get some data. She goes into a bunch of companies. She has people to fill out surveys about how often they procrastinate. Then she gets their bosses to rate how creative and innovative they are. And sure enough, the precrastinators like me who rush in and do everything early are rated as less creative than people who procrastinate moderately. So I want to know what happens to the chronic procrastinators. She's like, I don't know, they didn't fill out my survey. No, here are our results. You actually do see that the people who wait till the last minute are so busy goofing off that they don't have any new ideas. And on the flip side, the people who race in are in such a frenzy of anxiety that they don't have original thoughts either. There's a sweet spot where originals seem to live. Why is this? Maybe original people just have bad work habits. Maybe procrastinating does not cause creativity. To find out, we designed some experiments. We asked people to generate new business ideas. And then we get independent raters to evaluate how creative and useful they are. And some of them are asked to do the task right away. Others we randomly assign to procrastinate by dangling Minesweeper in front of them for either 5 or 10 minutes. And sure enough, the moderate procrastinators are 16% more creative than the other 2 groups. Now, Minesweeper is awesome, but it's not the driver of the effect. Because if you play the game first, before you learn about the task, there's no creativity boost. It's only when you're told that you're going to be working on this problem, and then you start procrastinating, but the task is still active in the back of your mind, that you start to incubate. Procrastination gives you time to consider divergent ideas, to think in nonlinear ways, to make unexpected leaps. So just as we were finishing these experiments, I was starting to write a book about originals. And I thought, this is the perfect time to teach myself to procrastinate while writing a chapter on procrastination. So I meta-procrastinated. And like any self-respecting precrastinator, I woke up early the next morning and I made a to-do list with steps on how to procrastinate. And then I worked diligently toward my goal of not making progress toward my goal. I started writing the procrastination chapter, and one day I was halfway through. I literally put it away in mid-sentence for months. It was agony. But when I came back to it, I had all sorts of new ideas. As Aaron Sorkin put it, you call it procrastinating, I call it thinking. And along the way, I discovered that a lot of great originals in history were procrastinators. Take Leonardo da Vinci. He toiled on and off for 16 years on the Mona Lisa. He felt like a failure. He wrote as much in his journal. But some of the diversions he took in optics transformed the way that he modeled light and made him into a much better painter. What about Martin Luther King Jr.? The night before the biggest speech of his life, the March on Washington, he was up past 3 a.m. rewriting it. He's sitting in the audience waiting for his turn to go on stage, and he is still scribbling notes and crossing out lines. When When he gets on stage, 11 minutes in, he leaves his prepared remarks to utter 4 words that change the course of history. I have a dream. That was not in the script. By delaying the task of finalizing the speech until the very last minute, he left himself open to the widest range of possible ideas. And because the text wasn't set in stone, he had freedom to improvise. Procrastinating is a vice when it comes to productivity, but it can be a virtue for creativity. What you see with a lot of great originals is that they are quick to start, but they're slow to finish. And this is what I missed with Warby Parker. When they were dragging their heels for 6 months, I looked at them and said, you know, a lot of other companies are starting to sell glasses online. They missed the first mover advantage. But what I didn't realize was they were spending all that time trying to figure out how to get people to be comfortable ordering glasses online. And it turns out the first mover advantage is mostly a myth. Look at a classic study of over 50 product categories, comparing the first movers who created the market with the improvers who introduced something different and better. What you see is that the first movers had a failure rate of 47%, compared with only 8% for the improvers. Look at Facebook, waiting to build a social network until after MySpace and Friendster. Look at Google, waiting for years after Alta Vista and Yahoo. It's much easier to improve on somebody else's idea than it is to create something new from scratch. So the lesson I learned is that to be original, you don't have to be first. You just have to be different and better. But that wasn't the only reason I passed on Warby Parker. They were also full of doubts. They had backup plans lined up, and that made me doubt that they had the courage to be original. Because I expected that originals would look something like this. Now, on the surface, a lot of original people look confident, but behind the scenes, they feel the same fear and doubt that the rest of us do. They just manage it differently. Let me show you. This is a depiction of how the creative process works for most of us. Now, in my research, I discovered there are 2 different kinds of doubt. There's self-doubt and idea doubt. Self-doubt is paralyzing. It leads you to freeze. But idea doubt is energizing. It motivates you to test, to experiment, to refine, just like MLK did. And so the key to being original is just a simple thing of avoiding the leap from step 3 to step 4. Instead of saying, I'm crap, you say, the first few drafts are always crap, and I'm just not there yet. So how do you get there? Well, there's a clue, it turns out, in the internet browser that you use. We can predict your job performance and your commitment just by knowing what web browser you use. Now, some of you are not going to like the results of this study. But there is good evidence that Firefox and Chrome users significantly outperform Internet Explorer and Safari users. Yes! They also stay in their jobs 15% longer, by the way. Why? It's not a technical advantage. The 4 browser groups, on average, have similar typing speed, and they also have similar levels of computer knowledge. It's about how you got the browser. Because if you use Internet Explorer or Safari, those came pre-installed on your computer, and you accepted the default option that was handed to you. If you wanted Firefox or Chrome, you had to doubt the default and ask, is there a different option out there? And then be a little resourceful and download a new browser. So people hear about this study, and they're like, great, if I want to get better at my job, I just need to upgrade my browser? No, it's about being the kind of person who takes the initiative to doubt the default and look for a better option. And if you do that well, you will open yourself up to the opposite of déjà vu. There's a name for it. It's called vujade. Vujade is when you look at something you've seen many times before and all of a sudden see it with fresh eyes. It's a screenwriter who looks at a movie script that can't get the green light for more than half a century. In every past version, the main character has been an evil queen. But Jennifer Lee starts to question whether that makes sense. She rewrites the first act, reinvents the villain as a tortured hero, and Frozen becomes the most successful animated movie ever. So there's a simple message from this story. When you feel doubt, don't let it go. What about fear? Originals feel fear too. They're afraid of failing. But what sets them apart from the rest of us is that they're even more afraid of failing to try. They know you can fail by starting a business that goes bankrupt or by failing to start a business at all. They know that in the long run, our biggest regrets are not our actions, but our inactions. The things we wish we could redo, if you look at the science, are the chances not taken. Elon Musk told me recently he didn't expect Tesla to succeed. He was sure the first few SpaceX launches would fail to make it to orbit, let alone get back. But it was too important not to try. And for so many of us, when we have an important idea, we don't bother to try. But I have some good news for you. You're not going to get judged on your bad ideas. A lot of people think they will. If you look across industries and ask people about their biggest idea, their most important suggestion, 85% of them stayed silent instead of speaking up. They're afraid of embarrassing themselves, of looking stupid. But guess what? Originals have lots and lots of bad ideas. Tons of them, in fact. Take the guy who invented this. Do you care that he came up with a talking doll so creepy that it scared not only kids but adults too? No, you celebrate Thomas Edison for pioneering the light bulb. If you look across fields, the greatest originals are the ones who fail the most, because they're the ones who try the most. Take classical composers, the best of the best. Why do some of them get more pages in encyclopedias than others, and also have their compositions re-recorded more times? One of the best predictors is the sheer volume of compositions that they generate. The more output you churn out, the more variety you get, and the better your chances of stumbling on something truly original. Even the three icons of classical music, Bach, Beethoven, Mozart, had to generate hundreds and hundreds of compositions to come up with a much smaller number of masterpieces. Now, you may be wondering, how did this guy become great without doing a whole lot? I don't know how Wagner pulled that off. But for most of us, if we want to be more original, we have to generate more ideas. The Warby Parker founders, when they were trying to name their company, they needed something sophisticated, unique, with no negative associations to build a retail brand. And they tested over 2,000 possibilities before they finally put together Warby and Parker. So if you put all this together, what you see is that originals are not that different from the rest of us. They feel fear and doubt. They procrastinate. They have bad ideas. And sometimes it's not in spite of those qualities, but because of them, that they succeed. So when you see those things, don't make the same mistake I did. Don't write them off. And when that's you, don't count yourself out either. Know that being quick to start but slow to finish can boost your creativity. That you can motivate yourself by doubting your ideas and embracing the fear of failing to try. And that you need a lot of bad ideas in order to get a few good ones. Look, being original is not easy, but I have no doubt about this. It's the best way to improve the world around us. Thank you.
Such an amazing talk, no? And perfect for our theme of origins today. Now, if you just look at some of the world's most successful companies, who do you think of? Let's say Nike, Coca-Cola, Apple. But what do these companies have in common? Sure, they all dominate their own industries, but what's that one thing that keeps customers hooked? Keep that in mind as I introduce our next speaker. Vincent Perriard, ladies and gentlemen, is the co-founder of HYT, the only hydro-mechanical watch company in the world. He is also CEO of Fab, a luxury consulting service. Having led teams throughout his career, he really knows what he's talking about in the watch industry. Former CEO of Concord Watches, Technomarine, and Brand DNA, he knows this industry inside out. Also, having been marketing lead for both the Swatch Group as well as Audemars Piguet, his knowledge on successful marketing and brand strategy is clear. Brand strategy, is that the answer to major company success? You know, sorry guys. Success comes from the root, the origin, which is brand itself. But how important is brand strategy? Let's just wait and find out. Ladies and gentlemen, to our stage right here, I give you Vincent Perriard.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. So, well, I'm not a video, I'm here in front of you to speak about a very serious talk. And maybe some of you guys could be very, surprised about talking about strategy right now. And I'm going to try to make it very easy, in fact, because I think that strategy is a very important thing. But there is one thing which is more important thing than the strategy itself, is to understand the DNA, the true DNA of your company, to understand what is the vision, or in other words, to explain in a few seconds what makes your brand so different. All right, so you can think about your brand, think about your company, think about your service, your product, any project that you have, online, offline, and try now to see what I'm going to show you, because I'm going to try to convince you about the importance of owning a true, particular, unique vision. Why that? Well, yes, because there are thousands of brands out there, thousands of people trying to do the same, trying to speak up, to do more noise than you. And it's a jungle. So what can you make to, fight against those guys? Well, in fact, there is one word you can just forget about it. It's the word fighting. And I learned another word, which is, make competition irrelevant. Make a project, create something that becomes so unique that you're not trying to fight against the other guys, but you're just trying to be alone in your place. When we did HYT with my team about 4 or 5 years ago, we created a company based on mechanical watch, like a true watch, working with the best watchmaker, just to name one, Audemars Piguet, as a content. And we decided to bring something completely crazy, which is liquid. Guess what? Liquid is the enemy of mechanical movement for 500 years. So just by creating a movement with liquid indication system, creates such a surprise that everybody will be amazed, not to say something else, about some, a new product, a new innovation in this very traditional world. So we created something unique and we made competition irrelevant. We created something that nobody can bring. HYT brought liquid and mechanical movements all together in a watch case. So, in fact, just by explaining HYT right now with this idea of creating a paradox between liquids and mechanic, what I'm doing, I'm trying to disintellectualizing everything. In fact, great and powerful ideas are very simple. They are very simple, and you should be able to, in fact, give the message to somebody else. I always say the same story. I always say that with HYT, the great thing is that they will remember me when I speak about HYT, because they will remember my face, the fact I'm bald, and I have transparent glasses. And with my team, we created a watch which is combining liquids and mechanics. And even my grandfather, my grandmother, she could explain it. She could give the message to somebody else. She would not say, oh, he created a watch. She would say, he created a watch based on liquid systems, because she will use the word. Everybody can understand and will remember this. So powerful ideas are ideas that you can explain in a few seconds. So think about your company, think about your project, and try to explain it in 5 seconds. You should be able to do so if your idea is powerful, if your company is powerful, okay? So today, I'm a little bit like a magician, because I know exactly what you have in your brain. That's going to be easy, and I'm going to use the same type of examples that you have seen today. When you see this sign here and this word, I exactly know what you have in mind. You're not having the strategy of Tesla. You don't know it. What you have in mind is, strong images, and I know them. You all think about electricity. You all think about, the dashboard. They just reinvented this very boring dashboard that we all have in a car by having this iPad thing where everybody understands that, everybody recognized it, and everybody remember it. And you all think about this gentleman. We just told about him just before. They are simple ideas. I call them the marketing shortcuts. You think about one name, one brand, or one person, one city, and you have automatically images in front of you. So when you create something, you better understand what you want people to see as an image or as words. Think about Geneva. Well, again, I exactly know what you have in mind. Guess what? You have this, for sure. You have this, for sure. And most probably you also have this. So think about, Paris. Think about the cities. It's also a brand. A city is a brand. A person sometimes also behaves as a brand. You give messages, and a city is exactly the same thing. So in fact, what I'm saying here is, always simple idea remains. Always simple idea. You can have great strategies, but at the end of the day, it's the strategy, the great idea, the strong idea that remains in your brain. I'm going to take an example of Starbucks. And I will try to explain, because this is a great example. This is the one I really love it. We are in 1993, okay? At that time, Starbucks is really, really a place where, you don't want to spend time, okay? So some of you guys here are very young, so you didn't live it this time, but I was living in New York in 1993. And in 1993, I can tell you that Starbucks was a great network of coffee like restaurants, but it was more like a McDonald's than just like a lounge or a restaurant. Starbucks at that time was this. It was like a cup with very bad coffee, black coffee that gives headache, and that the assistant would take and bring it up in the first floor, second floor, to share the coffee in the morning. And the problem with Starbucks is that they were like great, a great traffic of people buying coffee in the morning, but then it was completely empty during the day. Okay? And even worse than that, Starbucks was this. So it was really, really bad. You didn't want to spend like a minute. So you go, you take the coffee, and then you have a headache. That was the problem. So what happened in 1993, there is one guy who's the owner, still the CEO of the company, Mr. Schultz, and he brought all those great, talented people, great minds. And he asked the question, he said, guys, what can we do to improve the traffic? What, to improve the business? How can we make the traffic more intense from 9 a.m. up to noon and in the afternoon because it's too empty? What can we do? And of course, you can imagine that the company is a big company already that time. It's already 300 points of sales in the US. It's massive. It's massive, but it's all about quantity. It's not really about quality, which is typical American, to be honest with you. And he asked the guys, around the table, great marketing people, great product management people. And he says, what can we do? Guys, bring me some ideas, give me some food. And of course, we hear, well, let's create a new ad campaign. Well, for sure, there is a great marketing person who has got great ideas, and we'll reinvent a new message. There is one guy who says, well, the logo sucks, let's do something better and let's improve the logo. And there is the other guy who said, well, the packaging is maybe not so right, so let's move and change the packaging. And of course, you continue like this, and up to the point where the guy says, well, the coffee is not really good, we should maybe change the coffee. Okay, and there is one guy who is my former partner in Paris, who is the consultant. He's the French guy in the room. And he says, in front of everybody in 1993, he said, guys, I think that you've got a problem because you don't really understand your DNA. And everybody started to laugh. It's like, come on. The DNA of Starbucks coffee, we are #1 coffee maker in the US. Come on, 300 points of sales. We are coffee. And they said, no, you're not coffee because it can't be you. DNA is something else. It's something that makes you apart, something that brings your body unique, So I think that your DNA is, in fact, the source, the beginning of coffee. Go back to Italy. And coffee is all about sharing a moment with friends. And then nobody understands what he says. In fact, Bruno, my former partner, gave one sentence that will change the future of Starbucks for the next 20 years. He says, Starbucks is a place. It's where the people meet. And instead of investing into products, into packaging, into new ad campaign, into new logo, into whatever you want, he just said one sentence that will change completely the vision, the strategy of the company. Suddenly, it becomes this. Suddenly, it's a place. suddenly it's a lounge. It's a place where people meet. And this becomes the place where all the young guys, and I was again living in New York in 1995, where we all meet. This is the beginning of Wi-Fi. This is where you get the music, where you get, a great atmosphere, and you want to spend time. And guess what? Starbucks changes completely at that time, not only because of this, but because the atmosphere and the whole company is transformed by one stupid sentence, which is, this big idea that changes everything. So really change everything. So I'm a guy from the watch industry. So what about the watch industry? Well, that's pretty simple. I'm going to give you a few examples of strong, successful brands. By the way, success doesn't mean, quantity. It doesn't mean that the brand is highly performing in terms of finance. But success for me is like, it's standing out. It's different. It's respected. There is a great image behind that. So the one idea only concept or principle works also for the watch industry and for many other industries, in fact. Richard Mille, for those who are living in Switzerland, they may know Richard Mille, a niche company, a niche brand, yes. However, it became pretty strong today. They claim for the last 16 years that having a Richard Mille on your wrist is like to have a F1, a Formula One on your wrist. So they created a watch, a movement, everything detailed, that when you have this watch on your wrist, you have this impression that you have a Formula One on your wrist. He kept this idea for the last 16 years. Hublot is the same. Art of Fusion. We all know the brand. But when I say Breitling, I'm sure that most probably what you have in mind, you have yellow, you have the pilot watch. It's aviation. For the last 20 or 30 years, the idea of Breitling is simple, understandable, and you can give it to the next one. You can explain to your grandmother, yes, Breitling is all about, the pilot watch. You will say it because it's a simple idea. Omega, well, depending if they launch the new James Bond movie, that will be James Bond watch. And HYT, as I said, 3 seconds. It's liquid, and it's mechanic. So you can continue like this. And I just took one last example of this very powerful idea, and this is a brand I didn't work with, it's Patek, but I was there when they started the new campaign, in 1995, called the Patrimony. You never own a Patek Philippe, but you give it for the next generation. This idea was so powerful, but it's not just an ad campaign. It's much more than that. It's an idea that goes 360 for the company. Look, you have the watch, you have the ad campaign here, and you have this auction guy who says, yes, give valuation to your watch. In fact, by telling the people that when you own a Patek, you never own it very much, but what you do is you have a watch that will, gain value, create value, and you will give it to the next generation. What they have done in 1995, they started to purchase back old watches during their auction sales to prove the market that in fact owning a Patek Philippe gives give valuation to your watch. So it was not just an ad campaign. It was an ad campaign, but followed by a lot of different things, including commercial moves, such as buying back all watches at the auction houses. So in fact, strong brands succeed only because they have the 3 words: distinctive, credible, and relevant promises. So be different. Make competition irrelevant. Don't do like the other guys. Be unique. That's the question that you should ask. Can you explain or describe your company in just 5 seconds and be unique and powerful? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. So the next speaker, the title of his presentation is called Why We Do What We Do. What a deep title. Who knows? Are there some habits of yours or certain ways you always act in certain situations, but you have no idea why? Where are these actions even coming from? I think our next speaker is definitely going to help us find this answer out. Alistair Gray is an innovative and intuitive problem solver, which basically means he uses emotions to figure out the best solutions to problems. He is also fascinated by human interaction with our environment. Today, Alistair will go back to the origins of our actions towards ourselves and the environment and help us understand why exactly we do what we do. I told you, today is all about discovering yourself. So let's do it. Ladies and gentlemen, to our stage, Mr. Alistair Gray.
Every day, from the moment we wake up to the moment we choose the time to go to bed and where to go to bed, we're making decisions, we're making choices. We're thinking about what it is we want to do. And every time we do that, we'd like to have a reason, we'd like to have a rationale behind that choice. We'd like to have something that we can inform ourselves or inform other people as to why we do it. Some examples might be, I really like cheese and I'd like a bite. Or, I've always preferred brunettes. Or, of course, I think I can give a TEDx speech. Behind all this, behind these very loose reasons, there are some more involved reasons, some real origins about those choices, that affect the decisions we're making. And it's important to try and understand with more depth why we're making those choices, why we're making these decisions each day, and how that set of choices then influences the world we live in. Are the choices that we make really the truth? Are those reasons really the truth? And behind that, what are the larger influences? So let's start with those. There are a number of major influences on our behavior. There's the animal mind. This is a kind of very low-level bit which advertisers love to play with when they poke at sex and food and your aspirations for life. There's the family. So the way in which your parents have brought you up, and through them, your grandparents, the message they've passed you. There's the ancestral line that comes through that, and then some people might even say there's a genetic memory which is coming through. There's the social groupings. This is clearly more and more important nowadays with the internet, Instagram, Facebook, WhatsApp, Twitter. All of these are pressing messages into our minds every moment of the day. Every time you look at your phone, pick it up, you're getting something from that. Our culture and religion, the background that led to where you are now. What's good, what's bad, how you feel about gender interaction, even money. That's all governed by those basic influences. And then authority. This is a favorite one. We all like to have somebody tell us what it is that we should be doing, because it's much easier for us. If we don't have to decide, if someone else tells us, gives us a message, then it's far easier. We can just let it go. This is the one that has always brought out when someone told me to do it. Someone gave me those orders. And Stanley Milgram, back in the 1960s, demonstrated this beautifully with some laboratory testing, where a group of normal students, normal people, were taken to a point where they would effectively kill a test subject because an expert told them to. All of these then lead into our cognitive biases. These are the influences, these are the aspects of our behavior which are quite predictable, but unfortunately not always easy to deal with. Picking three straightforward ones. Hindsight bias. Hindsight bias is the way in which we look back at things and believe that we always knew. So you look back and go, I knew I wasn't going to enjoy that job. I knew that person wasn't the right person for me. I knew that was the wrong place to go on holiday. But we didn't know at the time. At the time, we made the decision correctly based on the information we had. Loss aversion. This is the aspect of behavior where we invest in something, and after a certain point, because we've invested in it, we give it excess value. So you might do a hobby. You buy all the equipment. You stop enjoying the hobby, but you keep on doing it because you spent all that money. Or probably something which is more relevant to the audience here. You've been in a relationship. You've spent time on that, invested time in that relationship. You've put effort into building that relationship, and now it's just not going anywhere. That loss aversion means it's very difficult to let go, to step away, to find a new choice. And then finally, there's negativity bias. This is the way in which we find it far, far easier to remember the negatives rather than the positives in life, the bad things that happened rather than the good. All of these worked very well in a world where we were just dealing with savannas and trees, berries and bushes. Unfortunately, in the modern life, that's rather more complicated. We have a lot more going on. And a lot of things which trigger these off are the smiling cats, the dying child, the scientific fact that we read on the internet. And unfortunately, those are disproved, died, or recovered. Whatever, they're no longer a good basis for those to be triggered. I'd like you all now to raise one of your hands. Okay. Now, put your hand down if you think, raise your hands. Put your hand down if you think you've made a conscious decision of which hand to raise. Oh, that's pretty good. Most people think decision-making works like this. A choice is presented, we consciously weigh up the decision, we make a decision, and then we act. Unfortunately, most people are wrong. Modern testing using imaging equipment shows that what actually happens is that a choice is presented, we make a decision unconsciously, then we justify that to ourselves, and then we act. What this all means, of course, is that if every choice, or most of our choices, are predicated on the unconscious or on biases, things without which we have no control, then we start to lose effectively lose control of what's happening. Some people would even argue we don't really have free will. If our low-level processing, if all those biases and instincts are taking things away from us, then how can we take that back? How can we make any proper choices? As an individual, we have a part of our brain which is very important. We can visualize the future. It's the prefrontal cortex. And that part of your brain is sat there and helps you to imagine what's going to happen, to see where things are going. The only problem with that part of the brain is that, like any organ in your body, it only starts working if it's got the time to do it. If there's something else which is more important, if your body's got energy it's got to burn elsewhere, or if it doesn't feel it needs to, it won't. So whilst we've got the part of the brain there, if the rest of the brain and the body thinks that a decision's already been made, it won't use it. So in situations where we have a higher authority, the previously mentioned authority, or indeed now modern media, which takes over that role very frequently, we don't use it. We don't think about what the effect of our actions is. We don't consider where it's going. We just give in. The other side of it is that under stress situations, or alcohol, or drugs, the same part of the brain will also shut down. So in modern society, where we're frequently stressed much of the time, again, we don't use the prefrontal cortex. We can see this behavior on an individual basis. We can also see this behavior on countries or company basis. We're now shifting into a world where everything is short-termist. Everything's now, tomorrow at most. We don't look at the long term for the pictures, for the images and the decisions we make. What that means is that on a larger scale, we're no longer considering what the future holds for our children, for the planet, for our towns and cities, for the other species that live here, because, well, it's hard work. We don't want to have to do that. If someone else is telling us we don't need to bother about it, we won't bother. We're losing sight of what's important. In addition, we no longer have a real sense of values. There's no connection between what we do and what we buy. When it was a world where we farmed and built and constructed and tanned and weaved, everybody had a far greater grasp between what had value and what they did. Now, who has a real sense of value about the things they buy? The hi-fi, the car, the new phone. It's gone. So by losing these connections between what's real and what's just provided to us, we're starting to lose a grasp on what in the world is really important. So through our inaction, we are starting to serve others rather than ourselves. Every time you pick up a piece of fruit and it's got a brown spot on it, throw it away, because it's only one. Every time you drop that piece of litter, it's only one. Every time you take actions which are not considered, which are not thought about, you are doing damage to the world around you. Degrading it in a way that all of us can now see. I'm sure everyone in the room could look back at when they were a child and think of something that's worse now than it was then. So what I'd like you to take away from this is that if the origins of our choices are mainly based upon our experiences and biases, then if we want to make change, we have to start to consciously consider all our choices from now. The one thing I'd like you all to do today is start to consciously think about the choices you're making. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think our next speaker is someone I think a lot of us at EHO can really relate to. Born in Nice, our next speaker moved from France to Africa. He's lived in Gambia, Sierra Leone, Egypt, Morocco, Israel, even Mauritius. He's even studied in the hospitality industry. Can it get more similar to our EHL lives? Well, after political difficulties in Mauritius, Pierre-Louis moved to Paris to pursue his dreams of becoming an actor. He is now author, director, and comedian, and has not let anything stop his way. For those that can really relate, growing up in many cities may feel like you don't have, a certain origin. This is something you must find. This is something you must discover. But always remember to follow your passions, just as our next speaker always followed his. His talk is called The Heart of Passion. And without further ado, it is my honor to give to you, on the stage, Pierre-Louis Pellisseau. Thank you.
To understand how it works, where it comes from, how it takes shape, how it's structured, how it raises a passion. A passion, yes. We'll give it the title of A Passion Born. Go. We put the passion on the table, under the light of this beautiful place, to understand. It is placed as a body, a package of meat, a pebbles, roast pork, green or blue, iron block, a cube, a pink abstraction. Imagine what you want. It's your job to witness, to establish my report. It's your job to all. Yes, you can be wide-eyed. It's time to focus and create a kind of collective hologram, a kind of collective illusion. Theater, it's a bit like that. So imagine, visualize a mountain. It's easy to imagine. Normally, everyone should have a mountain in his mind. Good. Here there is a first peak, and then a second above, and in between a valley. We focus on the highest mountain. I take the mountain and I enlarge before me. We get closer, a little more, go down. We go through the branches and arrive against the rock. And between two falls, under mosses, we discover the source, the passion. We call birth of a source like we call birth of a passion. It's two green pebbles, flat, rigid, and the water appear, and the passion appear. There is two eyes, two stars, two waterlogged globes, a earth of full water, ready to leap into the valley. It's nothing, hardly a movement, nothing. And then, suddenly, everything is broader. In grace, stones are visible. It rolls, it widens, the slope anchorage all get started. The sun, the night, the seasons, the cosmos. With few words here. The cosmos, yes. Seasons now. It exercise of one body, and then two body passion. It exercise of two bodies. It rolls, it expands. It rolls, it expands. The snow melts. It expands. It takes the size of a valley, clouds, rain. It grows. Wildboard, oak, jay, owl, deer, who enjoy the water. All the animal of the water, pissing, spitting, pissing, who enjoy the water. It swallows the patient. She bursts suddenly to everyone, boys and girls with hair dressed with flowers dancing in the roof. It's all out. The creek is deep, it expanded in the plain. Helmet side, the poplar, the donkey, the dog. The girls laughs in the same stream. The passion in the bushes, the passion in the face. The valley, it's widening. Goes to being nothing to it does not exist. To it's here now. To I appear. This appearance, this outpouring, breaking into reality. What do we do with it? What do I do with it? From the source of your passion, as large as the lake, this flow, this hard, fresh water at the bottom of my heart, you. What do I do with it? You see, there's these great things sometimes in life or on stage when you talk, like a highway with purity where all lights are green, a launch window. I'm in a moment like that. I'm in a moment with launch window. The title of the table will be Man at a Time with a Launch Window. What a human being has to say during his life is like a credit. He can use it little by little or use it all at once. Use it all at once is rare. It's rarely seen of someone to be born, say it all, and die. So, here what we see. What's the scene? What's the primal scene? You were supposed to watch us. What do you see? Do you see something? You see that life sometimes held in a closed fist, a glance. We are in this star. We are in that star. We are all locked, taken in this star, like a rabbit in a headlight. We are all trapped within a second, a blink. The inner of a man is a white and a bright coral. Speech is vehicle, and the mouth is a stage where it exposes. Speaking now, I expose the coral. I expose the inner to the surface. What did we have inside? What did I have inside? Dreams. We begin our life with chest filled with dreams. Dreams are not in the mind, but in the chest. We do not oxygenate the air, but dreams. We are rib cages packed with dreams. And breathing is a subtle mechanism to expire them and fulfill them before you. That's of the creative man who say, I want. I'm this creative man. The human species has this enduring. She believes in everything. Love, words, leaders. She's structured in this belief, in this illusion. She asks for them. What do we believe in? What have we believed now? Was it a dream? Are we dreaming? It is often said that the only thing is missing from animals is to speak. Animals are not silent. Animals were talking. Animals decide to be silenced before the horror of the world. You were not reluctant, spectator, when I turn life into fiction and you like it. We say we don't stop life, we don't stifle the source. I have not stifled the source and I let my inner life go, yes, in the visible world. We must live things to live things. We must live things to write things. And us artists are selfish beings. An artist is not generosity, listening, sharing, all that kind of grabs they are trying to make us swallow in cultural pages, dripping with good feelings of newspaper. No. An artist is a psychopath who do not hesitate to kill for the fulfillment of this work. And it's at this unique condition that an artist is an artist. And it's that this unique condition that an artist at this moment clearly offers and shares. Because what it offers is a gift. And this gift called being themselves. We go to see artists to see them being themselves, nothing else. We suffer so much to see in life people never being themselves. We paid a lot in operas, museums, theaters, the right to see others who say, it's me as I am. Our art is based on the force, structure. We don't write, but place words with more or less talents. On a kind of force, yes. Art is to channel this force. Art is to structuring this force and to make it affordable for everyone. Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, no flashcards. You know what that means. We have reached the halfway point of our event today. Therefore, we will now have a 1-hour break. Please enjoy the refreshments waiting for you outside. And also, we have some fun activities that I do recommend you do give it a try. So everyone, if you could please be back at 4:45 seated. Thank you so much.
This is that ice cold Michelle fight for that white gold. This one for them hood girls, them good girls, straight masterpieces. Styling, wildin', living it up in the city. Got Chuck's on with Saint Laurent. Gotta kiss myself, I'm so pretty. I'm too hot. Call the police and
All right. Guys, I had so many sandwiches, it's not even funny. I hope you enjoyed the refreshments as much as I did. And the activities were pretty cool as well. But back to a serious note, we have an exciting second half lined up for you. Now, because we have so many students filled in the audience, I think it's only fair we hear what a student has to say about this vast topic. But not just any student. A student who is studying something completely different than what us EHL students are studying. A student from a completely different university. Sarah Guya is a French, Costa Rican, Tunisian national studying international relations and politics at the world-renowned University of Cambridge. As she's keen to complete her studies in international law, Sarah has a passion for current political debates on topics such as globalization, climate change, cultural dialogue, security, even peacemaking. She will bring a different twist on origins as she will focus on a false debate. A debate between respecting our own origins versus being free and independent. Her title is quite interesting. It's called No Need to Pick Sides. We can be both cosmopolitan and give importance to origins. Let's hear what our Cambridge University student has to say. What do you say? Ladies and gentlemen, please bring out to our stage, Sarah Guya. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Sarah Guya. As you already know, I have 3 different nationalities. I was born in France, raised in Paris, so I'm French. My father is Tunisian and my mother is from Costa Rica, Central America. So you can easily guess why I'm so passionate about this topic on origins. But what I've been even more passionate about while I was growing up was to resolve this eternal internal debate. Feeling very cosmopolitan, very international, certainly because of the diversity of my own origins, but also understanding the claims that cultural origins matter a lot in our identity. That actually the people that sometimes are called patriotic, nationalists, in a very pejorative way, negative way, I could understand them as well. So I grew up portraying myself as the classic citizen of the world, and at the same time understanding why for some people it was so important to keep alive their traditions and their culture. But I think I've come up to a solution to that debate, and that's what I want to argue with you today, actually, is that there is no debate. There is no contradiction. There is no contradiction between feeling very patriotic and at the same time understanding that we are all part of a broader community made of human beings that are all entitled to human rights. There is nothing contradictory between feeling that your origins matter and at the same time that you can enrich your own identity by traveling, living abroad, meeting new people, experiencing new cultures. There is nothing contradictory between being part of a community and enjoying being part of this community and at the same time having a very complex and particular identity. But before explaining a bit more on why is it so important to say that today, I want to first define what I mean by origins. I'm going to define origins in two different ways. Territorially first, this is where you were born or where you grew up. So it could be a region, a village, a country. And then there's socially origins. Your family, your economic, social background, your friends sometimes, the people you grew up with. And all those people that were with you while you were growing up. So there's social origins and there are territorial origins. But in this talk, I will probably focus a bit more on country origins and on cultural origins as social origins, because I believe most of our problems in our modern world revolve around those two notions. So why is it so important to argue there is no contradiction between the two feelings I had? Well, I believe first that I kind of want reconciliation between two groups that I'm definitely going to caricature for the purpose of this talk. The cosmopolitans and the nationalists. The nationalists are the ones that see the importance of our cultural origins, see the importance of our traditions and how we've been raised, where we've been raised, but are afraid of globalization. The cosmopolitans, on the other side, are the ones that don't feel that cultural origins determine much. They focus much more on the individual, but are sometimes a bit blind to how difficult it is to peacefully coexist with people that have different cultural origins and come from different places. I believe one way to reconcile those two groups of people, is to make a very important distinction between origins and identity. But before saying that a bit more on that, I want to say first why I want to reconcile them a lot. And it is because I don't want xenophobia from the nationalist ones, and I don't want blindness on the cosmopolitan side. So why the distinction between origins and identity is important to reconcile those two groups of people? Well, because actually, we can link those two concepts of origins and identity to two basic feelings we all have. We want to be part of the group, and we want to be different. We want to be so much a member of any group, community, feel part of something. At the same time, we want to be unique. We want to be different. We want to be, oh, I'm this person that no one is. And I think everyone has those two basic, fundamental human feelings. And actually, origins and identity is a bit the same. Origins is about the fixed reality you've been in your early life. You can't change it, it's fixed. Identity, on the other hand, is very much about the evolution of your own personality. So it's very much about perpetual change. Origins is about your first sentiment of belonging to a certain family, country, etc. Identity, on the other side, is very much about being independent from anyone else, being very different. So you can see that actually origins relate much more to this feeling of sociability, of being part of the group, and identity is much more about being different, about being independent from everyone, about the fact that you're unique. I'll take a bit my own example to define those two concepts, to make it a bit more clear. So if I think about my own origins, territorially, I grew up in France, and that definitely influenced me a lot. It's the first time that I understood how society was working. I could definitely notice and witness the norms of my society, the values of French society. I internalized the culture. My very first thoughts and ideas were framed thanks to the French language. My social origins, my father being Tunisian, my mom being Costa Rican, they pass on to me as well their cultural origins, their vision of the world, their music they listen to, their ideas, their values, all this make up my origin. But if I think about my own identity, it's so different, it's very much more complex. Yes, indeed, my origins do have an importance on who I am. Yeah, I do dress in a very Parisian trend sometimes. Yes, I do love Arabic songs. Yeah, I do speak in Spanish when I'm drunk. Yet I have all those feelings and influences coming from my origins. But that's not just who I am. I can't restrict myself to that. I'm definitely also a woman. I'm talkative, I'm perfectionist. I'm a very stressed person in my school, my career, etc. There's many other things that make up my own personality. I love politics, I love history, things like that make up myself. But today might change in a few days later and like in some years after as well. But also, not only the cultures of my origins influence me. The other cultures I'm going to experience later also influence me a lot. For example, it's been 2 years now that I've been studying at Cambridge, and I'm still very much feeling the influence of British culture. I do have tea very much at 4 every time with my friends. I say a lot lovely. I try to copy Emma Watson's accent quite a lot. There's definitely a lot of influence coming from the British culture. So myself can't be restricted to only my origins. So why is that so important to reconcile the cosmopolitans and the nationalists? Because what I would say to the cosmopolitans is, don't be blind to the influence of our origins in our identity. Don't be blind because sometimes, especially when you feel threatened or discriminated against, those origins take up a very important place in your own identity. When I'm in France, I sometimes feel very much more Tunisian. Why? Because sometimes in some discussions or listening to the news, there is sometimes some confusion between certain terms like Muslims, North Africans, immigrants, refugees, that they all take as synonyms. And I feel a bit insulted by that. But why do I feel insulted? Why do I feel threatened? Why do I feel more Tunisian? Why do I have this tribal sense of belonging to that community? I haven't been in Tunisia for a while. My Arabic is not well. And yeah, I'm not Muslim neither. Why do I feel so hurt by those words? Because I do feel threatened in my own origins. When I'm in England, I don't feel rejected as French, but I do feel the influence of my French culture. It's actually the first time I realized how much France had influenced me in my way of studying, in my way of experiencing friendships, all of those. So origins are important. We can't say origins are not important. They are important in our lives. And we should understand that because people are moving from a country to another and coming, and because of globalization, we will be surrounded by people coming from different origins. And we have to respect that sometimes they might be a bit threatened because of the differences. And if we discriminate them, they'll definitely feel very insulted. And their origins will take so much more importance in their identity. The nationalists, listening to everything I've just said, would be, hold on, actually, well, we agree with you. We definitely feel very threatened by immigrants coming to our countries. I disagree with that. Because, yeah, they feel threatened, but not in their origins. They feel threatened in the idea of their collective identity. And that's where the distinction, again, between origins and identity is important. They feel threatened because what they do to make up this collective identity is they take characteristics, symbols that we all have from our origins, and they believe that everyone has the same characteristics or would pick the same symbols. But that's not true. Example again, in France, they talk a lot about Jeanne d'Arc, the nationalists. I don't have anything to do with her. I literally don't feel anything when someone talks to me about Jeanne d'Arc. I think that France is much more about Voltaire, dark humor, fighting for a cause all the time, loving debates. But that's also my only way of perceiving this. Is my personal way of perceiving my own origins. Everyone perceives their origins in very different ways. And this is very much the problem with nationalists. What they feel threatened is not their origins, it's their collective identity. And this collective identity doesn't exist. There is no identity for every one of us. We're all so different. Yes, we all are influenced by our origins. And yes, definitely the cosmopolitans should be much more aware of how much our origins make up things in our identity, how sometimes we feel passionate about them. But they don't make our identity. We don't restrict ourselves to just that. No one should tell you who you should be because of where you come from, because of which family you grew up in, or because of you come from this social economic background. Identity is absolutely personal. It's the particular association of characteristics to make you yourself. So there we see that actually if cosmopolitans were understanding very much this distinction, and if nationalists were understanding this distinction as well between origins and identity, well, they could definitely reconcile on many issues. So it's true, we can be both cosmopolitans and hold origins as important. It's not contradictory. We only have to acknowledge that we definitely have both a very tribal sense of wanting to be part of the group and sometimes copy the people from the group, and that we all want to be very different as well. And we should live with both of those feelings. They're not bad, they're great feelings, but to the extent of not hurting others, whoever they are and wherever they come from. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sarah. And actually, Sarah brings up some really valuable points that no matter where we come from, this is a very diverse crowd, like I said, city, big city, or small village, we should never forget to go back to our origins because that, at the end of the day, is who we are. So moving on to our next speaker. After completing his studies here in Switzerland, our next speaker then moved to Ithaca, New York, where he continued studying in marketing and tourism at the world-renowned Cornell University. After completing his studies there, he then set up a South American tour operator back here in Switzerland. After more than 150 inspection trips within South America, he then decided to create Nomad Lodges. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with Nomad Lodges, it's actually it's South America's first luxury sustainable hotel network. After spending over 25 years in luxury travel, you guys will see, in the next talk, his experiences will really tell us a lot. Pierre-André Kruger will discuss how exactly we can rediscover connections between ourselves and nature. He will dive deep into the origins of connections and will tell us, how we always come back to our roots. So let's hear what he has to say. Please welcome to the stage, Mr. Pierre-André Kruger. Thank you.
It is all about dreamings and how you make them become realities. I remember one of my favorite Christmas presents. I was 10 years old and I could see this big round gift box under the Christmas tree. And I was very curious and fascinated about it. And when I opened it, I was just amazed about this globe. It was actually a globe like you can see, where you can see all the the time limits and everything. So I was looking at it hours and hours and dreaming about how to travel around this globe. And a few years later, when I finished my studies, I was at the same time working and to earn some money in the way to travel. And the fact was, many of those people who were traveling at this moment were traveling to Asia. And I didn't know if I wanted to go to Asia or to another part. And I say, well, if I go to Asia, it may be more difficult because I won't have something really concrete when I come back. So I decided to go mostly to South America. And where I was working, I met this incredible girl at this moment, and born in Argentina, and she came at the age of 12 in Switzerland with her mother. And she had this way of talking about his country, like everything was coming from the heart, you know, and very, very amazing in terms of intensity. And she convinced me to go to South America, and I began, obviously, to visit Argentina. Then my trip was about 8 months through the South American continent, backpacking. And when I come back, I get so many inputs, so many things to communicate about this continent that I say I have to share this passion. I have to share this, and that's why at this moment I create the first travel agency, specialized on South America. And this makes me travel a lot. I was traveling for my clients. My clients were, you know, looking for something different, something else, something very special. So I have to find something out of the tracks, you know, something very specific. And all my travels, which I count, it's around 150 trips to South America, just inspection trip, to see really to identify the most amazing places for my clients. And one day, one client called me and he said to me, "What about the Amazon? We really don't know anything about the Amazon. It looks great, but do you think we can do something there?" And I was thinking about how to get there, and you know, it was complicated. I mean, I said to him, it's huge. It's quite like big as the United States. It's surrounded by 9 countries. So there is no road, there is no airport, there is. It's difficult to get there by boat. You know, it's a long trip because the Amazon River is about 6,000 kilometers long, so it's complicated. And so I was thinking, and I said, wait, we maybe do something by hydroplane. Could be fun to do something by hydroplane. And I was looking and developing this project and trying to get a budget about this trip. And when I received the budget, I said, wow, this is a bit expensive to do an inspection trip. It was about more than 50,000 Swiss francs. And it was impossible for me to do an inspection trip with this amount of money. So a few weeks later, I was invited by dinner to my clients, to one of my clients, who wanted to do another trip. We wanted to speak about their next trip to South America. They were frequent travelers, so they have been to South America before, and they wanted to do something very special, something different. And so I said, maybe I have something for you. And I spoke about this trip, and they said, but what is it exactly? And I said, well, the idea is to fly over the Amazon from Manaus to the Cordillera of the Andes, and then cross the Andes by four-wheel drive until the Pacific. And they said, wow, we want to do this. It looks amazing. And I say, okay, we can do it, but it has a cost, you know. Well, we don't care. Let's do it. And a few months later, we were flying over the Amazon, looking for the nicest trip to stay and to see. And at this moment, I see this amazing place, what is called a very amazing place for me, because after 150 trips in South America, you can imagine I have seen a lot of amazing places. But this one was very specific. You know, it was something really special. It was amazing in terms of situation, in terms of localization, but also in terms of natural landscape. But there was something stronger than that, and I could feel something very special, something so strong, a lot of energy in this place. And I said, this is the place. This is really the place where we can do something, and this is really the place where we can connect with the origins. So I come back later, and I really feel this feeling you can have, this balance between human being and nature. When you are walking inside the forest, you can really feel this nature, which is really strong. You can really feel the 60 meters high trees pumping water from their roots to the extremities of their leaves. I mean, you have this energy which is constantly present in this part, and this makes me really decide to do something from scratch there. I mean, 100% sustainable project to develop there. So I decided to go further with this project, but I needed some people to help me in this way. So I was looking about some friends locally, some biologists, and everybody was very positive about it. So I said, we really have to do it. We really have to show where we can reconnect with the nature. We have actually lost this connection with nature. I remember on the other day I was at a friend's place in Geneva, and we had an energy cut. And it was 10 at night. We didn't know exactly from where it was, where was coming the energy cut. We tried to find a solution, but we didn't have any solution. Then we said, well, maybe we can phone to an emergency call and see there is a 24-hour service if they can arrange something. But it was on the 15th of July, so everybody was in holiday. So impossible to get a solution, and we are in the dark. And suddenly I can see my friend getting into a panic. But what are we going to do? What I'm going to do with all the food I have in my freezer? We have no Wi-Fi. We have no microwave. Nothing works. I really have to find something. I really have to find a hotel room to pass the night. I cannot stay here anymore. And I was saying, wow, what's going on? I couldn't believe this attachment to the technology and to the energy we can have here. Well, you know, I am living for about 2.5 years in Colombia, in the Amazon, and we have about 4 to 5 energy cuts per week. So for me, it was nothing special. But I was really surprised to see how the people are attached to this technology and to this energy. So I think we really have to rediscover connection with nature, to refine this balance between human being and nature. You know, in the Amazon, the cosmovision of the Amazon people, in the cosmovision, they have all the animals, all the human beings, all the plants, they are on an harmonious way. They have all equal. And this is a nice way of life, you know, and this is around this concept that I would to develop my project. And I have the chance to work on it with the EHL through a student business project. And I must say that it is great because I can feel the same thing at the EHL that I feel in the Amazon and in the Amazon. I know that there is a lot of students here in the room, and I must say that you are all amazing. I mean, you are coming from all the origins, from many different cultures, and this is great, you know. It makes you having a lot of energy and a lot of positive thinking. And I really need this for my project. And I can combine this with all the energy I can find on the Amazon. And that's why I think today, traveling and discovering the world is not a possibility, but a to-do plan. If you want to grow, if you want to think outside the borders, if you want to be inspired, you have to travel. And I think it's very important to do it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Ooh, thank you so much. Freedom, ladies and gentlemen, it's all about who we are. Freedom is all about expressing ourselves the way we want to. And you know, the best thing about freedom and the most beautiful thing about freedom is that it's subjective. Everyone has their own definition of freedom, and everyone has their own way of thinking about it. Our next speaker, Cedric Reinot, will tell us all how the digital world of today will in fact take us back to our origins. His career began with Chromosome, one of the first digital agencies in Belgium in 1995. His career then progressed to communications manager at Digital Age Design and has stuck with the digital industry ever since. For those interested in the digital communication world, or for those just really interested in a good talk, brace yourselves. Our speaker will tell us how being digital brings us back to our roots, and how coming back to our roots, in fact, makes us more autonomous, more free. So ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure you're going to love this next gentleman coming on stage. He is quite the character, and that's coming from me. I give you Cedric Reinot. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Abby. You know, the two other persons who say good stuff about me is my wife and my mother, so you touch my heart. Hi, everyone. I'm Cedric Reinot, and I'm coming from Belgium. So don't panic. You're still in Switzerland, but Belgium is such a teeny country, and you have a big part of it in front of you. It's like almost being there. You didn't get it. Excuse me, can we make a pause there? Thanks. We need to put some rules here. When I will say something really funny, I will put this one. Okay. When I will say something amazing, I will put this one. Okay, so funny one, amazing. And then when I will say something amazingly funny, I will put this one. Get it? Okay, let's go back. Hi, everyone. My name is Cedric Reinot, and I'm coming from Belgium. So don't panic. You're still in Switzerland. But Belgium is a so teeny country, and you have a big part of it in front of you. It's almost like being there. Thank you. Thank you. So, I don't know if you know the story about Belgium, but when God created Belgium, he found it so beautiful that he decided he will wash it every 2 days. So, yes, we have a lot of rain there, but it's still a great country with really nice people, as you will discover tonight. Of course, I didn't come all the way to Switzerland to talk to you about the weather in Belgium, even if it can be a good reason for some of us to move on what I will talk to you tonight. I've been active in the digital world since more than 20 years now, so it gives me the label of oldies inside this small club. And when I look to my peer that started with me as digital immigrants back in the mid-90s, Most of them are still really active in the digital area with a lot of initiative, giving courses, helping some groups on digital transformation, giving conference. I even heard that some of them are giving TEDx in Geneva and in Lausanne also. But when you look at our pictures on Facebook, that's unfortunately the new happiness barometers. You know, look at Facebook and say, oh, they look happy. But when you look at our pictures on Facebook, we look quite happy. And honestly, we have a lot of fun. That was a very bad trip experience I did with my kids. They saw the movie, so they say, we would like to do it. So we did it in Brussels when my wife was away. And we have a lot of fun. But when you sit down with those guys in front of a good glass of wine, I mean, not my kids, the digital immigrants. When you sit down with those guys and you start discussing about joy and happiness, then the good part of the discussion starts. The question you have to ask yourself is, are you really happy or just really comfortable? I know, happiness is a trending subject. There's a lot of things going on there. I see a lot of chief happiness officers popping up everywhere and taking care of the happiness of employees. There is also a lot of great literatures, like this book from Lee Chutley. You should read it. That's an author from England that's written that once. But the question is, are you really happy or just really comfortable? I know that both can sound and seems quite the same, but in fact, they are not. When I think about being comfortable, I think about settling. And whether it's in a relationship or in your career, settlings shouldn't be an option. In a relationship, for example, being happy and being comfortable are totally two different things. When you're getting incredibly comfortable in a relationship, the relationship can fall into routine with no excitement. You lose the spark. You lose this little thing that makes you fall in love in the first time. But when you get truly happy, you just fall in love with the same person every day, with every quirk and flaw. And it should be the same for your work. I met so many people that kind of don't like their work, you know? 229 days. Almost 2,000 hours, at least for some of us. More than 100,000 minutes. 6.5 million seconds. That's 65%, sorry for that. 65% of your time that you spend on that spinning chair and you don't like your work. It's amazing. To go back to my fellow digital immigrant, you know, the one who has this superpower inside the hand without even knowing that he can change their life. I think that the one who left digital, I mean working inside the digital, with the digital, for the digital, those one who left digital before get something more quicker than the other one. Digital is just a simple tool. Look inside your company. You probably have a digital department, right? Do you have a pencil department? And do you have a CSO, a Chief Staplers Officers? No, you don't need it. At best, you can have a digital acceleration team for a short period of time, but you don't need a digital department. And what about those great digital agencies? I had a few of them before, so I'm not going to hit too hard on those ones. But those great digital agencies with bright people having a deep reflection about digital strategy of brand. Like if those brands have digital customers and normal customers living in two different worlds. No. Digital is just a tool that can help you to achieve a mission that is more important than the tool himself. Today I can tell you that digital is just an amazing tool that's giving us more possibilities that nobody had before and throws back to the origin of the human race and what every civilization has always searched for, freedom and liberty. Or you can see it more clearly, being happy. Yes, being happy. Jimmy Goodfried from the intelligence group make a lot of research during the differing motivation and preference of generation, and most specifically, the digital immigrant, the X one, and the digital native, the Y one. And the result was quite interesting. Generation X live to work. Generation Y work to live. Generation Y have multiple passions. They are more global than the X one. And in fact, 70% of them want to move abroad during their career. Now, if you take this generation, the Y one, or even the Z one, our futures, the way they structure the professional life, the motivation, and the fact that they are digital native, I can tell you that digital is bringing us back to something that exists, even if it was not really practiced in Europe, but exists back in the mid-16th century. Nomadism, being mobile. Of course, we read a lot of articles about disconnected therapy, and probably some of you, maybe me, we need sometimes a digital detox from time to time. But tonight, I want you to realize that digital can make some of us more happy to what I will call digital nomadism. I met a guy last year who's now working from around the world, managing his business from his boat. And I was asking him if it changed something in the way he worked. And he told me something that delighted me. I do not live anymore when my work requires me. I take my work where I want to live. It makes a big difference. I personally don't have an office anymore since more than 5 years now, jumping from mission to mission across Europe. And honestly, I want to have one. In the last 2 decades, I created and sold several digital agencies. And I must admit that I'm quite comfortable in my professional life and my private life. But maybe not truly happy. That's why it's a scoop. That's a scoop today. Next year, I'm going to hit the road with my wife and my 2 lovely kids, managing my business from around the world, meeting new people, new cultures, and just enjoying every single minute of it. You want my advice? Don't think twice. And ask yourself, where do you want to work tomorrow? We have been given a gift that's called life. Don't blow it. Arriving at the end of your life to realize that you never truly live. There's people talking to you with a million, if only I had, if only I had. Hey, people, wake up. Why are we on this planet? Life was not made just to simply work, pay the bill, and wait for the weekend. Life is short, so live it. Thank you very much.
Funny guy, right? I told you. All right, so as promised, it's now time to share with you our second video handpicked by our TEDx team. Now, before I show you the video, I want you guys to think about something. What makes a TEDx talk so good? What makes a TEDx talk so special? Keep that in your mind as I introduce the next video. Will Steffen, everyone, has written for some of the biggest names. College Humor, The New Yorker, even New York Times. He's a guy who really knows what he's talking about. Or does he? The next talk is actually one of my favorites, not because it inspired me, but actually because it brought me back to humility. I hope you guys enjoyed this talk as much as I did the first time I watched it. So, ladies and gentlemen, on our big screen, I give you Will Steffen.
Hi, I'm Kevin Alaka. I'm the trends manager at YouTube, and I professionally watch YouTube videos. That's true. So we're going to talk a little bit today about how videos go viral and then why that even matters. We all want to be stars, celebrities, singers, comedians. And when I was younger, that seemed so very, very hard to do. But now web video has made it so that any of us or any of the creative things that we do can become completely famous and a part of our world's culture. I mean, any one of you could be famous on the internet by next Saturday. But there are over 48 hours of video uploaded to YouTube every minute. And of that, only a tiny percentage ever goes viral and gets tons of views and becomes a cultural moment. So how does it happen? 3 things: tastemakers, communities of participation, and unexpectedness. All right, let's go.
Oh my God, oh my God! Oh my God! Woo! Oh, wow!
Last year, Bear Vasquez posted this video that he had shot outside his home in Yosemite National Park. In 2010, it was viewed 23 million times. This is a chart of what it looked like when it first became popular last summer. But he didn't actually set out to make a viral video, Bear. He just wanted to share a rainbow, because that's what you do when your name is Yosemite Mountain Bear. And he had posted lots of nature videos, in fact, and this video had actually been posted all the way back in January. So what happened here? Jimmy Kimmel, actually. Jimmy Kimmel posted this tweet that would eventually propel the video to be as popular as it had become, because tastemakers like Jimmy Kimmel introduce us to new and interesting things and bring them to a larger audience.
It's Friday, Friday, gotta get down on Friday. Everybody's looking forward to the weekend, Friday, Friday, getting down on Friday.
So you didn't think that we could actually have this conversation without talking about this video, I hope. Rebecca Black's Friday is one of the most popular videos of the year. It's been seen nearly 200 million times this year. This is a chart of what it looked like, and similar to Double Rainbow, it seems to have just sprouted up out of nowhere. So what happened on this day? Well, it was a Friday. This is true. And if you're wondering about those other spikes, those are also Fridays. But what about this day, this one particular Friday? Well, Tosh probably know, picked it up. A lot of blogs started writing about it. Michael J. Nelson from Mystery Science Theater was one of the first people to post a joke about the video on Twitter. But what's important is that an individual or a group of tastemakers took a point of view and they shared that with a larger audience, accelerating the process. And so then this community formed of people who shared this big inside joke, and they started talking about it and doing things with it. And now there are 10,000 parodies of Friday on YouTube. Even in the first 7 days, there was one parody for every other day of the week. Unlike the one-way entertainment of the 20th century, this community participation is how we become a part of the phenomenon, either by spreading it or doing something new with it. So, Nyan Cat is a looped animation with loop music. It's this, just like this. It's been viewed nearly 50 million times this year. And if you think that that is weird, you should know that there is a 3-hour version of this that's been viewed 4 million times. Even cats were watching this video. Cats were watching other cats watch this video. All right, but what's important here is the creativity that it inspired amongst this techie, geeky internet culture. There were remixes. Someone made an old-timey version. And then it went international. An entire remix community sprouted up that brought it from being just a stupid joke to something that we could all actually be a part of. Because we don't just enjoy now, we participate. And who could have predicted any of this? Who could have predicted Double Rainbow or Rebecca Black or Nyan Cat? What script could you have written that would have contained this in it? In a world where over 2 days of video get uploaded every minute, only that which is truly unique and unexpected can stand out in the way that these things have. When a friend of mine told me that I needed to see this great video about a guy protesting bicycle fines in New York City, I admit I wasn't very interested.
So I got a ticket for not riding in the bike lane, but often there are obstructions that keep you from properly riding in the bike lane.
Yeah. By being totally surprising and humorous, Casey Neistat got his funny idea and point seen 5 million times. And so this approach holds for anything new that we do creatively. And so it all brings us to one big question.
What does this mean? Oh!
What does it mean? Tastemakers, creative participating communities, complete unexpectedness. These are characteristics of a new kind of media and a new kind of culture where anyone has access and the audience defines the popularity. I mean, as mentioned earlier, one of the biggest stars in the world right now, Justin Bieber, got his start on YouTube. No one has to greenlight your idea, and we all now feel some ownership in our own pop culture. And these are not characteristics of old media, and they're barely true of the media of today. But they will define the entertainment of the future. Thank you.
All right. That's what I love about TEDx Talks, really. The chance to show you both speakers and videos from TED official conferences. Our next speaker is actually someone quite special. It's our very own from EHL, Dan Ofsisser, who is a third-year student here at EHL. Dan has spent a lot of his life traveling, which has opened his mind up to various cultures around the world. Having lived and traveled the world, Dan has always been able to notice the synergy between cultures. Like Veronique, who spoke to us earlier, Dan will address a crucial problem in today's society. This problem is populism and racism. Today, Dan has the chance to address the issue to a diverse crowd like you about a topic he has already stirred a lot of information about. Reverse engineering racism is the topic of his speech, and it goes without saying, I'm extremely happy to bring onto the stage one of our own students and a friend of mine, Dan Ofsisser. Thank you.
Yeah, so here I am, me. Straight, white, male, without even glasses, talking to you about racism. So you might be thinking, well, what does he know about discrimination? I'd like to remind you that I also have a red beard. So I do know a bit about discrimination. Over the past 4 years, I've been lucky enough to call Jerusalem, Montreal, and then London my hometown. It didn't hit me straight away, but then I realized that all 3 cities have a very interesting relationship with diversity. And so those experiences, coupled with an education teaching me inclusiveness, openness, and respect, made me very aware of the discrimination that happens around the world. And with all the unfolding events at the moment, I really felt that I had to do, or at least say something. And because I'm a minimalist, I decided to say something. And apparently, it's worth spreading. I'd like to start by telling you a story. The year is 1934 in Nuremberg, Germany. My great-grandparents are the owner of one of the most prestigious hat shops in the city. Their family came from Aufsess, a small country town outside the city. At one point, it was best known for having the highest rate of brewery per capita. And also, no, actually, that's it. It was a small town with nothing much, but that's where my family came from. That's where they lived for over 200 years. They were proud of their origins. They were not really religious, but still, they were very proud of their Jewish heritage as well. And it is for that sole reason that in 1934, after one of my granddad's classmates was attached to a fence the whole night, they decided to flee what was their home for a new one, what was then called Palestine. Their heritage, their roots, were in Germany, in Nuremberg, in Aufsess, where my name literally comes from. But because of racism and Nazism, they had to flee. So how do we challenge that? As a society, how do we make sure that this kind of event doesn't happen again in the future? Well, this is where the magic trick happens. Together, we'll see how we can use racist tools against them. Together, let's reverse engineer racism. So one day, I was stumbling upon YouTube, watching videos, as we often do. And then I saw a panel discussion on Fox News, America's largest news channel and its strongest conservative voice. The panel was discussing Jesus and Santa. I was baffled. There was a panel of professional, well-educated journalists vehemently defending the fact that both icons were white. When it comes to Santa, spoiler alert, he doesn't exist. So it doesn't really matter. He's a commercial product. When it comes to Jesus, however, it's a whole other story. I think we can say that he had quite an impact on our world. And so his figure is quite important. And this panel was defending the fact that he was white so seriously that it felt like for them, if he wasn't, he would be less of a god. And that troubled me. So if you will, let's look into Jesus' origins. Jesus was born in Nazareth, as most of you know, in today's West Bank. Then it was called Judea. But Jesus actually comes from Galilee, which is just north of Judea. And according to anthropologist Roger Neve, this is what a Galilean would have looked like at that time. Huh? Interesting, isn't it? It's more of what we would refer to today as an Arab, rather than a white Caucasian male. And so I think that by looking into the origins of certain things or people, we're able to show, explain, and gap bridges between people that thought had nothing in common. For example, Fox News and an Arab. Another admirable man is Trevor Noah. He's a South African comedian, and he's the host of The Daily Show with Trevor Noah on Comedy Central. Trevor was born in 1984 in Johannesburg, South Africa. And he has a very interesting story. His mom was a black South African woman, and his dad was a Swiss white man. So Trevor's very own existence was illegal. He was referred as colored and couldn't go play outside, as he was rejected by both black and white communities. In a very interesting documentary called You Laugh But It's True, Trevor explains how in post-apartheid South Africa, as he was becoming a comedian, what was once a handicap became an advantage. What was once a threat to his life became a way for him to distinguish himself from other comedians. He could relate to both communities, and both black and white communities saw him as an outsider and an insider. And so from a Johannesburg slum, he came to host one of America's progressive, most influential shows. And all of this by a lot of work, a lot of talent, of course, but also by understanding how to use his origins to his own advantage. So now that we understood that we can use origins to fight racism, let's see how we can apply it to one of today's most important issues, the rise of Islamophobia. Because when you go to Yad Vashem, Jerusalem's Holocaust Museum, which I've visited over 5 times, you come to realize that one of the main issues that allowed this atrocity to happen was the passivity and the silence of those who were not concerned. Not that they were especially racist, but they just didn't act out. So of course, there is a problem today with Muslim extremists. But Islam is not the problem. It is a political, a financial issue, but definitely religion is not the issue. And it is important to make this distinction because we should include those Muslims who are not extremists and not exclude them in the arms of those who are. And so to those who say, well, Islam is not compatible with our modern society, it is a hateful, it is a destructive religion, I would like to challenge you. And once again, let's go look into Islam's origin and history. First things is the numbers. Have you ever tried counting from 1 to 10 without numbers? Pretty hard task. And we have to thank the influence of Islam for this invention. Al-Razi, a Persian scientist, was the first to use alcohol in medicine. Quite ironic, isn't it? Who here hasn't heard of the 1001 Nights? A poetry masterpiece. Again, this was written under the influence of Islam. The Taj Mahal, an architectural prowess. It was both requested and designed by Muslims. And it is such for those who have seen it, you know how beautiful it is in the details, the arts, the little stones that make the beauty of it all. And then finally, belly dancing. Oh yes, we have to thank Muslim influence for this as well. So you can have a real impact in fighting racism and discrimination around you, simply by speaking out and by using racist tools against them. Because nothing hurts more than being beaten at your own game with your own tools. Imagine a golfer being beaten by his opponent, but with his own clubs. He would probably disregard the importance of the clubs and just admit that his opponent was better. And I believe it goes the same way with racism. If you can fight their ideology with their logic, then you put them in a position where they're not able to say that your argument is invalid. So I urge you to speak out. Hold people accountable for what they say. And don't be afraid of arguing with someone. Don't be afraid of being a fool. Because in front of a racist, they will always be the fool. I'm just a student. I don't have more credentials than you do. I don't have more knowledge than you do. I just have the will to be on the right side of history. So tap into your origins, your story and your history, and use it to fight discrimination and racism around you. Before I finish, I'd like to share with you a quote that I saw when I was visiting the Genocide Museum in Kigali, Rwanda this summer. And to this date, it is stuck with me. When we said never again after the Holocaust, did it concern certain people, but not others? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dan. All right, ladies and gentlemen, only one more speaker left. You like that little change up, guys? You like that little change up? Thank you. So only one more speaker left. Now, if there's one thing that our next speaker loves, it is speaking itself. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Laura Penn has a huge passion for public speaking. Just one second. All right. So, and she takes her passion for public speaking and shares it with the world. She helps students, teachers, professionals, celebrities, anyone she can help who has a great idea that wants to have a great presentation, she will help them with their public speaking. As a Toastmasters European champion of public speaking, host of 2 online television shows, and the author of How to Enhance the Performance of Public Speaking, I think she knows what she's talking about when it comes to this topic. In fact, origins to her is what comes from within. Listening to your inner voice, your gut feeling. She will be talking about how she believes public speaking needs to be disrupted. It gives me a great honor and privilege to welcome to our stage our last speaker of the event today, Dr. Laura Penn. Thank you.
I haven't always been a public speaking coach. Believe it or not, I'm a scientist specialized in conservation biology, which is the science of protecting wildlife and wild places. 6 years ago, I was sitting in an auditorium that looked a lot like this one, listening to a string of presentations given by colleagues who had just returned from field missions involving the conservation of various plant and animal species. One after another, the presentations were unbelievably awful. Mechanical monotones, unrehearsed, soulless. For me, they were BAD, which stands for broken and dysfunctional. They were ticking off every single box of what not to do while speaking in public. Speaking too fast, tick. Saying too many ums and ahs, tick. Spending more time looking at the screen behind them than at the audience in front of them, tick. I felt numb, disengaged, and totally uninspired. Looking around me, I realized that I probably wasn't the only person in the audience who felt this way. No, my fellow audience members were busy doing all sorts of things. Some were taking power naps. Others were crossing their arms and legs tightly like this and looking up at the ceiling, thinking about who knows what. And still others were shifting uncomfortably in their chairs, looking ill at ease. You know what this feels like, right? All you have to do is remember the last BAD, broken and dysfunctional presentation, to know what this feels like. And I'm willing to guess that you probably don't have to think back very far to remember this presentation. Because the kind of presentation that I'm talking about is ubiquitous. It's happening everywhere. In boardrooms, classrooms, and auditoriums, except this one. All over the world, all the time. In presentation after presentation after BAD presentation. And most of the time, we as the audience just sit there politely listening, watching, waiting, wanting more. Longing for movement and laughter and human connection. Why do we accept such a low standard for public speaking? Why is it okay to deliver BAD presentations? These are the exact questions that I was asking myself as I was sitting in the audience, listening to my colleagues drone on and on and on about their subjects. And I started to feel irritated. And then that feeling changed to anger. I got angry. I was angry that such precious information was spilling so carelessly from their lips, like gold dust draining from one's hand. Gone. Public speaking is one thing, but conservation is a crisis discipline. Species live or die based on presentations like these. Critical funding, global support and awareness, community consciousness. All of these things rely in such a large part on how conservation professionals are speaking about the issues. And then it happened. I was hit by a lightning bolt idea. What if, I thought to myself, what if I could put together all of my experience as a conservation biologist with all of my experience as a performing artist? Because I've been dancing and doing theater for 20 years as a hobby. What if I could put those two things together in order to fix this speaking problem? What if I could help to promote conservation through effective public speaking? And that's exactly what I did. Today, I live to disrupt the broken and dysfunctional status quo for public speaking. And I'm working not only with the conservation community, but with anyone who is willing to put in the elbow grease, the sweat, and yeah, sometimes even tears, to learn the magnificent art of effective public speaking. That's right. You heard me say art, because I believe that public speaking is a performing art, like theater and dance and music. A speaker's art is the effective delivery of the spoken word. In order to be successful, the speaker has to both create compelling content and perform that content in front of an audience. Performance is what makes your presentation interesting, so that people pay attention. Performance is what makes your presentation memorable, so that people inhale and absorb your message. And performance is what makes your presentation stirring, so that guess what? People give a damn. In short, performance is what makes your message matter. And by the way, I'm not talking about the kind of performance where you go all out on stage in front of the audience and act like somebody you're not. I'm talking about the kind of performance where you stay authentic to who you are, but you have polished and honed and refined those elements which I believe constitute the performance of public speaking. There are 4 such elements. The first one is appearance. This is all about what you look like. From the outfit that you are wearing, because what you are wearing is a part of your performance, and it goes on to include how you walk into the space and what presence you radiate. And then there's voice. Your voice is an instrument, and your job as a speaker is to play it, and play it well, creating melody that the audience wants to listen to. And then there's body. When you are speaking, you are not only speaking from your mouth. No. What else are you speaking with? You are speaking body language, of course. You're dancing body language. As a speaker, you need to be fluent in this language, understanding what gestures and positions mean, so that you know which ones to use and which ones not to use. And then there's audience connection, of course. This is all about creating a relationship with the audience, so that you form bridges between yourself and them. And this begins by you doing your homework, so that you know who the audience is in the first place. That way, you can take on their needs and interests and speak to them. Those are the 4 elements that constitute the performance of public speaking. And those are the 4 areas that your job as a speaker is to enhance and polish like a diamond. Now, I'm sure that you can imagine that doing all that polishing takes a lot of effort and time. But just as with any skill, Whether it's learning how to bake the perfect lemon meringue pie, or reciting Shakespeare, or skiing moguls like Edgar did. Public speaking is no different. It requires practice, and then more practice, and then more practice after that. But the good news is that it can be mastered. And as George Leonard said in his book called Mastery, mastery is available to anyone who is willing to get on the path and stay on it. So there's hope. But there is one method that is a little bit easier to take on than all of the stuff that I've just described here. This is one of my favorite methods to teach because it's sort of a shortcut. It prevents you from having to go through the hoops of fire of these areas, and it allows you to switch on the performance of your public speaking right now. I call it putting on a new hat. You see, hats have a magical power. Hats can make you imagine things and believe things, and most impressively, to do things. I first tuned in to the illustrious power of hats back at university, when my best friend and roommate, Sarah, and I had a whole wall of our student apartment dedicated to silly hats. There were big ones and blue ones and tall ones and small ones. A hat for every occasion. Sarah and I would use these hats to help us to do stuff. So when it came time to study for exams, I had a favorite study hat. It was my Dr. Seuss hat, which was tall with red and white stripes. You may know it from The Cat in the Hat. This hat, I believed, I had a responsibility when I wore it. And that was that I needed to fill its tall column with knowledge. So I studied harder. And then after the exam was over, I'd put on my other hat, which was my relax hat, my floppy, velvet, lovely hat that made me chill out. You get the point. Hats have a magical power. But the really neat thing besides that, relating to hats, is that they can be invisible. People who are broken and dysfunctional speakers are wearing an invisible hat that says, "I'm a boring presenter," in big, bold, tattered letters on the front. This ugly hat, it makes them give dull and unremarkable presentations that are neither interesting, memorable, nor stirring. In short, that are not performances. You can choose to wear a hat like this too, if you don't care about your subject, or the audience, or whether or not your message is memorable. This kind of hat, it works every time. Or, if you do care, you can choose the kind of hat that I am wearing right now. Do you see what it says in big pink letters on the front? If you can't read it from where you're sitting, it says, "I'm a performer!" Exclamation point. This magnificent moss green velvet hat, shaped like the Matterhorn mountain, with a crooked tip and a peacock feather sticking out at the top. This sublime hat gives me magical powers. It gives me permission to take up space on this stage and to be a larger version of myself. This hat allows me to take risks and experiment with how I use my voice and how I use my body so that my messages can come alive. And this hat gives me courage so that I can interact more with you, so that we can have a more meaningful connection. I love this hat. And the good news is that you can have one too. All you need to do is imagine it, believe in it, and then the most important part is you need to surrender to its powers. Make a ritual ceremony out of putting the hat on. Begin by imagining the hat. What does it look like? Design it, create it, make it peculiarly you, like Jeremy said. And then slowly put the hat on your head. When it touches your head, poof, you transform into a performer! Exclamation point. Let that energy take over. Enjoy yourself and be present in the moment. If more people wore hats like these, and if more people regarded public speaking as the performing art that it is, then I believe that broken and dysfunctional presentations would be a thing of the past, and we would revolutionize how we speak. Thank you.
All right. Woo!
God, this fucking thing.
All right. So, from putting on our magical hat to finding out our deep emotions to being peculiar, you know, Origins covers it all. But the beautiful thing about Origins is that it's subjective. Origins is different for everyone. Everyone here has their own origin. And it's up to us to find out and discover what our origin is. These are the things we need to think about before leaving this room today. What's your definition? What is your origin? Now, before I wrap the show up, for those of you who know me, the students in the crowd, I'm a selfie king. So, I would like to take a massive TEDx selfie, all right? All right, can everyone say cheese? Like, help me out a little. Thank you so much, man. Thank you. Oh, my God. I was like, oh, my God, I messed up. Oh, my God. Wait, now. One for Snapchat. Oh, thank you for the lights. What? Wait, hold up. And no one said cheese, by the way. Come on. This one's a video. Cheese it. Woo! So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for coming to our 4th edition of TEDx here at EHL. I hope you enjoyed. And before we enjoyed the cocktail waiting for you outside, because I'm waiting for that too, oh my God, I would like to bring up all of our speakers here today. Please, every speaker that was here today, please come to the stage. All right, go. Guys, congratulations. Oh, la la. Guys, congratulations. The talks were amazing, truly inspiring, and I think all of us here can leave with something to take and feel inspired. And this event would not have been possible today without our beautiful, hardworking TEDx EHL team. So ladies and gentlemen, TEDx EHL team, please come to the stage. Some of these people you've never seen because they've been behind the scenes, but all their hard work has really paid off. Guys, come on. Oh, and a round of applause, please. Our last speaker. Now, some pictures. Now, I would like to give a special thanks, and I think we should all give a special thanks to Elie Vichel. He's our director of conference. Oh, here he comes. Here he comes. And, you know, he's so passionate about this, and he's so hardworking, and I think he deserves to say a few words.
Thank you. You know, when the conference started, I started to cry. It's true story. Why? Because I've seen that all the team here actually started to make an amazing work, and actually it blew me away on all the time they spent. Okay, it's not maybe English, it's fine, but they spent so much time on organizing this huge event, 1 year event organization for just a single day, just for you. Imagine having 11 attendees just for you, 11 ideas worth spreading, 11 innovations would change the world of tomorrow. And today, I would like to thank Abby for his great job. So please give him a round of applause.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ellie. And of course, another huge stakeholder in making this event possible today, a huge sponsor, a huge thank you to our sponsors. Metro Group, once again, our main sponsor for the food and beverage, which you will enjoy, we will all enjoy very soon. Uber for transportation of our speakers. Lausanne Palace, which is actually hosting 2 of our speakers. Relax Inc., which is taking care of our speakers and our team behind the scenes. They're in fact giving massages. If you ever want to give it a try, go to Relax Inc., give it up for them. Talking for Good, for coaching our EHL team in making this the best possible event. Give it up for Talking for Good. And last sponsor, Lausanne Hospitality Consulting, for publicizing our beautiful, beautiful event. So give it up for Lausanne. So, ladies and gentlemen, once again, I want to thank you all for coming to our 4th edition here at TEDxEHL. I really hope you enjoyed the event. Hope you're leaving with something inspiring. And, don't go to the food yet, I'm coming, hold up. And enjoy the refreshments waiting for you outside. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. See you next year.
Thank you very much.